Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 383. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is a sick Matt.
Not sick like I'm sick. Sick like I'm not feeling well. So, yeah.
Trust me, Matt, I've never said the word sick in the context of something being good in my life.
You should. It'd be very Mario of you to go way, way, way back.
This is someone that Matt knows named Mario, not the plumber from Italy who jumps in warp pipes, just to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, welcome everyone. It's DC Comics Podcast. We get together, we talk about the books we read this week, and it was another hefty week. I read 10 books this week.
So did I.
Yeah, I figured it's the exact same 10. I don't think there was any variation, but here's the list anyway that we're going to be talking about today. Unless Matt surprises me with an extra one or two. We have Batman Off-World issue 1, we got Superman issue 8, Wonder Woman issue 3, Nightwing 108, Green Lantern War Journal issue 3, Batman Superman World's Finest 20, Titans issue 5. Sorry?
That's World's Finest 21.
Oh, is it? Oh, I've not updated the number. That's my bad.
Gotcha.
That's my bad. Alright. Titans issue 5, Justice Society of America issue 7, J. Garrick The Flash issue 2, and Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong issue 2.
Yes.
Hefty list of books. No solicits this week though, so that was nice.
Yeah.
But yes, lots to talk about, lots of good books to talk about even, so we'll get into all of that in a bit, but of course we'll do a little rambling, we'll do some top 10 and whatever else we tend to do on this show. So yeah, you're sick, Matt.
Yep. Started creeping in on Wednesday. I was off from work for the holiday. Thought I was fine. Went and played football Thursday for Thanksgiving. Immediately regretted that decision. And then stuck through Thanksgiving and then spent all my last day off yesterday. Just on the couch, watching movies. Not the whole day, because I did organize 18 months worth of comics. I've just been throwing into the guest room willy-nilly. So I organized those. I have to go get boxes. So, yeah. But yeah, that was my time. It is. I don't like being sick. I don't get sick that often. But when I do, it's, like when Ron gets sick on Parks and Rec. It's very much the same. I
too get hit hard with a cold or the flu. But I no one likes getting sick, obviously, but it's I'm particularly miserable. I feel like I can't function when I'm sick.
Yeah, my wife's one of the people that when she's sick, she can just sleep all day. I can't. I reach a limit of sleeping when I know there's things to be done, right? Even though if I'm not feeling good. Like, I have movies to watch, or I have things to read, or 18 months worth of comics to organize, and I just can't. My brain won't shut off. I remember when we first moved into this house, she got sick almost like immediately, and while I was like putting stuff away and moved, she's on the couch just gone to the world, like, and I've always been jealous of that. So yeah, but at least I got all the books read on time. Like, that was one benefit of it.
Oh, that's what one day. I will say, I get annoyed at Thanksgiving because all of my YouTubes and podcasts and things all pretty much take a break for like half a week for what to me is just a Thursday, and that's really annoying.
Right. Yeah.
And like all of a sudden I have no new episodes of the things I listen to when I'm doing stuff on a Thursday and Friday this week because everyone's just decided to take the rest of the week off.
Some of those shows I listen to will throw up like a vault episode of either something from their like Patreon or subscriber that, if I'm not subscribed to, I haven't heard, or they'll pull it from something that, is like a fan voted thing or a listener voted thing, which is always good for a listen, because a lot of the stuff I listen to now is real deep into the years of doing shows. So you forget a little bit of things. So, but I'm behind. I haven't been listening to anything. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get annoyed at Christmas with it as well, but at least I can sympathize as someone who makes content that you do need some downtime once in a while.
Yeah.
Still though,
I just think it's funny to you that just a Thursday.
Yeah, it was just a Thursday, but everything, the place that makes the majority of online content that I seem to consume, I'll just decide to take a few days off. But hey, we are here. It's the weekend.
Yep.
Not that it matters that much, but we're here, and we're going to talk about some comics, and I'm going to serenade Matt with a top 10, a ComiXology top 10, you might say. If that word's even applicable anymore with the app getting just shifted off to the Kindle app, but you know, whatever. I feel like just
we should still, in solidarity, call it the ComiXology top 10.
Out of tradition more than anything else. It's the one place the word will live on. Is the start of our show for the top 10. So, yeah, looking at Tuesday, then Wednesday, because that's how they split them up. They're just ranked in order of sales on ComiXology. So DC's Day, Tuesday. Matt, what is your guess for what's number one?
There's some options here. I'm gonna go with Wonder Woman.
That is incorrect.
Oh, okay. The second guess is Nightwing.
Incorrect.
What? You're telling me Superman's number one?
Incorrect.
What? Oh, okay, I give up. There's no bet. Oh, it's Off-World. Son of a B.
Incorrect.
What? All right, I need to go back to bed and start this day over.
Number one is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
Really? Hey, you know what? Good for that creative team.
Yeah, that surprises me as well. I guess maybe the Monarch show being on's got people hyped up for the monsters. I don't know. Which is I think I mentioned this last week, but Matt Fraction and Marissa Tamaki are both, or Mimiko Tamaki, sorry, not Marissa, are both involved in that. But yeah, so cool. That's number one. Number two is Batman Superman World's Finest.
Wow. Again, I have lost all sense of reality.
Apparently. Number three is Wonder Woman. Number four is Superman. Number five is Nightwing. Number 6 is Titans. 7 is Justice Society of America. 8 is Batman Off-World.
Okay.
9 is The Flash Jay Garrick. Or Jay Garrick The Flash, whatever way around it is. 10 is Green Lantern War Journal. So, very packed top 10. In fact, I believe that's the exact 10 books that we read and we'll be talking about later.
For sure.
So, yeah, just with Hot Girl and Catwoman being out of the top 10. And then it's a bunch of trades and a bunch of classic Marvel issues that went up online apparently in the past week. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, I don't know if you've got a guess.
I'm looking. I'm pulling them up now. Let's see. There's a bunch of X books to go with. There's also some Spider books. But my gut's telling me it's Immortal X-Men.
It is Immortal X-Men. You were wrong 5 times in a row on the DC list.
I got it out of my system.
But you got the Marvel one right away. 2 is Invincible Iron Man. 3 is Uncanny Spider-Man. 4 is Wolverine. 5 is Monstrous Volume 8. So that's a collection for that one, yeah. 6 is Amazing Spider-Man. 7 is Void Rivals issue 6. So that's Robert Kirkman's book. And then 8 is Avengers Inc. 9 is Incredible Hulk, and 10 is Sensational She-Hulk. So, a bit of an interesting 10 there. A couple of non-Marvel books, which is nice to see. And there's an Image book just out there. Number 11 is The Forged, issue 6, which has got Greg Rucka involved. So, yeah. It's just an interesting enough... A lot of books this week across all the publishers, it seems like, judging by my glance at the top 10 here. It's a busy time, but lots of good books, so that's good to see.
I don't see that last one you just mentioned coming up, unless I'm just missing it on League of Comic Geeks. So that's interesting. I wonder if it was
issue 2, Sensational She-Hulk, or are you talking about the Image book?
The Image book, I'm sorry.
Oh, The Forged. Let me have a look here. It's a $7 book. It's Greg Rucka, Eric Troutman, with Mike Henderson on the art.
The Forged, I'm not...
The end of an arc.
Yeah? Huh?
Is it possible it's digital first and isn't out physically till later, maybe?
Maybe, could be. But yeah, it's not coming up unless I'm missing it in the scroll. So, yeah, interesting.
What Matt's not realised is that he's filtered to exclude image books, so it's just not there.
No, there's image books because the Holy Roller's on there, which I had to look that because I know Tim picked up that book, and I was like, oh, what is this? And it's apparently Rick Remender and Andy Samberg. So it's as if, you know, I'm looking for Tim's Monkey Paw Wish to work on that one. But yeah, I don't see this one from Rucka. So interesting.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's a top 10. Weirdly, like, not a lot to talk about, but not because there was a lack of books, just because, yeah, it's just packed. I guess the Godzilla Kong book being number 1 for DC is the most surprising thing in there.
That is very surprising.
So, but we'll get to that later. That'll be the last book we talk about today. Like we said, we have 10 books to get through, so we won't dilly-dally too much. We can get into business. We will kick off with Batman. Actually, hold on. There's no comic book news, but there actually is some news that I had lined up to talk about.
Okay.
I forgot there for a second. Yeah, we had some castings for the Superman Legacy movie. 3 roles have been cast this week. Now, obviously, we already had Superman and Lois. They were done a while ago. Now we have Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, which... Yeah, I mean, I feel like they keep going for sort of skinny guys as Luthor, and in the comics, he's always kind of like, no, he goes to the gym. Like he's not Hulk Hogan, but he goes to the gym.
Yeah, I could see Holt packing on muscle though. Like he's rangy, as you would call in like sports. You know, like if you look at hockey players when they get the pads off, they're all kind of built like sprinters. They look bigger because of the pads, but it doesn't mean they're any less fit. So I could see him being kind of that rangy style. It offsets him physically from Superman, right?
I can see him being a narcissist, but I think in the comics, and they've done a few sort of scrawnier Lexis, Jesse Eisenberg being the most horrific offender.
Horrific. I would describe it, but it fits nonetheless.
But I guess like I always see Lex Luthor as he's drawn in comics to be kind of like, he is the alpha male in a lot of ways. He looks like this alpha dude in a business suit. The only thing that's not alpha about him, I suppose, is the fact that he's bald, if you see that as non-alpha. Although, I feel like a lot of gym bros are bald, so it actually still fits to me.
But they're bald for other reasons. It's not from kryptonite poisoning and or an explosion.
So I know it's just this. It's interesting to me they've went with someone like him again. That said, though, I can see him playing a narcissist. If you give me a more maniacal version of the character he was in the Menu, but just more like smart.
That's what I've been pointing towards. Is like take away the sniveling and like the kind of, you know, he can't, because he nailed the can't get out of my own way, right, in the Menu, and that's kind of Lex to a T. But you got to add some competency on that. So
yeah, he's not competent. He's kind of pathetic in that movie. But you could take parts of it and add those other qualities. You can totally see Lex Luthor in there. Yeah, that said, maybe Ralph Fiennes will be his biggest weakness.
Yeah, he should be. I'm not huge on the Menu, but that scene lives with me. Just the way that it's shot.
I love the Menu. The Menu blew me away. I went in not knowing what to expect and just finding the commentary, and it's honestly one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. It was making me cackle repeatedly. Lines like this taco will hold up in court. That line will live in my head forever.
But yeah, just that scene in particular with him and
let's call it Tyler's bullshit. That's a good name for the scene.
And I don't want to give anything away, but just the way that it's shot and the captions that come up, and very, very snarky and funny.
Very cathartic, I would say, as the scene goes. So we also have a Jimmy Olsen. Skylar Gizondo has been cast as Jimmy. Now, if you just said that name, I wouldn't have known who you were talking about. But you give me a photograph of this guy, and I'm like, I know who this is. Also, perfect casting.
Yeah. Just give that man a bow tie and a camera, and he's already Jimmy. Just looking at him. It's out of all the castings they've done for this movie, this is the one where I just take one look at a photograph of the actor and go, oh yeah, this is actually visually they've nailed this.
And having seen him in a couple of things like the Righteous Gemstones and whatever else, he is perfect. He looks like you say. You put a bow tie on him, it'd be like he's transported out of the 50s. He has that vibe to him. So that's perfect. And then we also have Sarah Sampere as Eve Tessmacher. I hope they yell it.
Don't know who she is.
Oh, the actor, yeah. You know who Eve Tessmacher is?
Yeah, I know who Tessmacher is. Yeah.
Yes. It's a simple little thing, but I do kind of hope that Holt yells Miss Tessmacher at some point. It's like the movie, the original movie's version of Lex. Like, it's entertaining because it's Gene Hackman, but it's not necessarily what I think Superman fans of the comics want as a Lex Luthor. But the one little thing that I'll take from it that I'll keep in lore as a homage to it is the yelling of Miss Tessmacher's name.
Yeah.
I'll keep that gladly. Yeah, I don't know who she is either, really. I'm just scanning to see if it tells me here in the article.
But they're all pretty much like, I remember when they announced the last go around of Superman castings, and they all seemed very familiar people. I like that a lot of these people they seem to be either from like TV or from smaller projects. Holt notwithstanding.
Relatively, I mean, unknown feels maybe a bit too strong, but
yeah. But like Rachel Brosnahan, she had that show on Prime for 5 seasons, and Corn Sweat's been in some things. So
I don't really know either of them though either. I just like I had to go on for them was the photographs and goes, I can see that being Lois. I could see him being Superman, I guess, but nothing much to really go on.
I think that helps too because they're able to kind of mold themselves into that.
Tessmacher looks similar. The actress, like the biggest thing I think she's been in is the TV show Billions.
Okay.
And that seems to be one episode.
Gotcha.
And then a few movies that I've not heard of. So she seems to be an up and comer.
Yeah.
Well, that said, she's 32, so she's not exactly like super young, but she's up and coming in the sense that I've not seen her in anything. Yeah. I think she's a model first and an actor second. I think that's why she's only just getting
so then she should strike
now.
an opposing figure as Tessmacher.
Which makes it feel like they're mixing Tessmacher and Mercy a bit.
Yep.
If that's what they're going for.
For sure.
Okay. No notes.
No notes. Like that. Real quick too. Speaking of DC movies, I did watch Blue Beetle yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's pretty good. It's a shame that it came out when people seem to be on the downswing, because it's a perfectly fine movie. I would have been okay spending $10 to see it in the theater. Now, if you're tired of the tropes, I think you would have been annoyed, Pete, a little bit, because it kind of does all the superhero movie tropes, but it does them very, very well, and it's offset by the characters. Like, all the characters are very vibrant and stuff, so you're like, yeah, we're kind of going through the motions. I mean, with the exception of Jenny, they give Cord a daughter, so she's kind of not there. Kind of a nothing character, but
okay.
The rest of them, his whole family, Jaime, even Susan Sarandon as Victoria, it's well worth a watch if you got a chance. So
I think the problem is, you say it's perfectly fine, and for me right now, when it comes to superhero movies, perfectly fine ain't sounding exciting to me. It's sounding
but where we were, so like I got a trailer. We went and saw Thanksgiving as well, and I got a trailer for Aquaman 2, which I still can't believe is a movie that's going to exist. And that just looks like they overstuffed it again. That looks like there's 14 storylines going on, whatever, and so for me, perfectly fine when it comes to the DC movies. I'm okay with, because it's, I can recognize what it is. It hits the character, the beats of Blue Beetle that I'm familiar with. It gets those, but it doesn't, it's not beholden to certain things. But, it had a life to it that a lot of these DC movies just haven't, and even the Marvel movies I've seen recently. So, kind of stuck out that way. And considering that it was made basically for Max, and then they decided to throw it into theaters, it's still wild to me that they were just going to throw this up there when it was...
It was the same with Evil Dead Rise. That was made for like Max.
Yeah, that's another one that I was like, you're just going to let that go on a streamer? Like, that's a pretty quality movie. But yeah, it's, if you haven't seen it and you are listening and you're not Pete, because again, I don't necessarily know if it's going to help him like superhero movies again.
Well, I think, and this is the thing, we're seeing it with the box office numbers. I think once there's so much of something, the standard for what's worth seeing from that pool gets higher and higher, because now it's like, well, if it's not at least an 8 out of 10, then why even bother at this point? And like, I'm not saying that's a hard and fast rule for everything, but it kind of feels like that with superhero movies now, where anything that isn't exceptional now, I just can't be bothered spending time on.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. And has this been painted by me seeing it at home under my blankets on the couch? Maybe, right? Like,
well,
it was
sick,
just
at a fever dream.
Yeah. No, the fever dream came from watching Batman Returns with Ash last night, which I haven't seen in a couple years. And I don't know if it was the cold medicine or what, but man, my friends that say that that's a good movie, like, you could like it. It is not a good movie. Like, you can have nostalgia for it.
It's
whatever.
not a Batman movie. It's Tim Burton's weird world where he just wants, like, his over-the-top Penguin and Catwoman to, like, chew scenery. That said, I hate that movie because I think it horribly just doesn't get Batman. That said, though, Christopher Walken's entertaining. I'll give it that. I
would say Danny DeVito's fully committed, like, as the Penguin. Michelle Pfeiffer's pretty good, and Keaton's, Batman. But like, when Batman just lets the Ice Princess fall and doesn't even try to save her, that's so un-Batman. He just looks at her and was like, and then goes to fight the Penguin. So at least I think that's what I saw. I don't remember. I was under a lot of NyQuil. So
does he have a one-liner in that movie where he says the floor's high in fiber?
Maybe. Again, cold medicine.
I don't know if that's a line in the movie or if it's a line in a YouTube video making fun of the movie, and I can't remember now. They've blurred together in my head.
Yeah. I don't know.
Something about you're going to eat the floor, it's high in fiber. Something, but I don't know if that was actually in the movie or just someone made a joke about it that's now attached to that scene in my head. Regardless,
I can look. It's not boiling hot acid, right? Or what's the line from Forever?
It's boiling acid.
Yeah. That sticks out. And you said floor high in fiber.
Something to that effect, yeah.
But yeah, we were just looking for something a little bit of the season to watch last night. So in one of the Batman video games, there's an achievement called Eat Floor High Fiber Achievement.
Someone else has heard this joke at least.
Also on Reddit, it says Eat Floor High Fiber Batman Returns. So that is a line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're at the movie. I don't remember.
I want to say it's just before the princess bit you were talking about. I think it's when he goes to try and save her. I could be wrong. Gotcha. It's been a while myself.
Yes,
Don't get me wrong. Michelle Pfeiffer in that outfit did things to me as a young boy that I didn't understand yet. There was something to parts of it, but I kind of hate it as a Batman fan now.
And my poor wife had to hear me go off and look. I'm not even a Catwoman fan, but she is barely Catwoman in that movie, right? Like, there is nothing that makes her Selena Kyle.
She has the outfit. That's it.
But even then, it's the outfit and the whip, and but just a lot of her attitude and all of this other stuff is very barely.
Well, she's more psychotic, to be honest, than anything in that movie.
Which is fine. You can do a psychotic Selena, for reasons. But it was.
But Penguin's also psychotic. Everyone's psychotic. Batman's psychotic.
And because we've never had this discussion on the show, why does Penguin have a Joker gang? They're all circus people. I get it. He's a freak, right?
I'd say they're out of work Joker goons, but Joker's goons all wore purple jackets and hats in the last movie, so I don't know.
Again, it's Batman on sheer vibes only, right? So, but just again, haven't not seen it in a couple years because I want to go through the Nolan movies because it's been a while since I've given those a rewatch. I know you just did them all for Collector's Cut and going up for Oppenheimer, right? Or did you not do the Batman?
We did the Batman. We did all the other Nolan movies.
Gotcha.
There's already pretty good Batman reviews from me and Connor from a couple of years ago that are already there. So
Gotcha.
We did every
Oh, yeah.
Nolan except the Batman movies. Well,
Okay.
and except the sci-fi movies, because we did them and Ace as well. But everything else we did.
So everything that's not nerd focused.
Yeah, we did. We had Following, Memento, Insomnia, Prestige, Dunkirk, and Oppenheimer.
Gotcha.
There you go.
But yeah, so I'm gonna get for those, but I thought maybe after Christmas. I don't want to start Batman Begins right now. But maybe I should have instead of Batman Returns.
Instead of Returns, you absolutely should have. Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought Pete was just being harsh on that movie because how much he hates it. And I'm like, it's a Pete thing. But then I'm watching it last night and being like, oh my god! Even the last time I watched this,
I'll ask you the question I always ask people when I'm talking about Batman Returns. Matt, describe one moment in that movie where Batman does something heroic.
You can't.
Exactly.
You can't. Like, yeah.
Does it feel like he wins? Does it feel like he saves the day?
No.
I don't think it did.
No, because I mean he lets Catwoman electrify the villain. Again, I don't want to spoil this. People should go if you haven't seen Returns, guys. Do yourself a favor, drink some cough medicine if you need it, and watch Batman Returns.
Or watch a good Batman movie instead, maybe.
Maybe.
You got 3 Nolans and a Matt Reeves. Like, pick one of those. Go for it. Or Batman Mask of the Phantasm, even if you want to go animated.
True. I know. Ash turns. She goes, "Well, who's the best Catwoman?" And no, one thing about my wife, she does not like Anne Hathaway. So I have to choose. I go, well, here's the thing. I've only seen the Batman once, so I can't really judge Zoe Kravitz, right, as Catwoman. So just by default, it has to be Anne Hathaway. And then I went to Duck, to make sure there's nothing flying my way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just one of those things, or those movies, man. People hold them up because of nostalgia, but rough times.
Yeah, oh well, there you go.
But Blue Beetle, if you guys are any curious about it, I would say it is worth it. It's on Max. Give it a watch this season. Sitting at home, instead of spending time with your family, watch Blue Beetle.
Yeah, okay. Fine advice, I guess. I'll tell you what you shouldn't watch. You should not watch Home Alone 4 or Home Alone 5 or even Home Sweet Home Alone. I'm struggling here.
I expected one of those, not the entire number of them.
I didn't even say Home Alone. Home Alone 3 is not good, but compared to 4 and 5, it's like Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Like, I would say Home Alone 3 is a fine kids movie. You know what I mean? Whereas 1 and 2 are very good family movies.
It doesn't have any of the wit or the charm that 1 and 2 do. They're smarter, even though compared to like a serious movie, they're very kiddie. When you actually compare it to Home Alone 3, you realize just how like smart they are for what they are, because then you see an actual kiddie movie and you're like, oh shit, this could be way dumber, this could be way more.
Yeah, it's the John Hughes effect. He's able to humanize these characters in silly predicaments, right?
I get. Wait, I know he produced. Did he even write it though?
No, I'm pretty sure John Hughes wrote both of them.
He may have done that. I'm asking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just knew he produced it. And Columbus directed them. But four's the worst one. Home Alone 4 is.
That's the one with the guy from Third Rock with French Stewart.
He's playing Marv, but he's dressed as Harry for some reason.
Wow.
And the kid's supposed to be Kevin McAllister, and they reference loosely the first 2 movies, yet he's younger than he was in the second movie. He's also a terrible little shit who I wanted to see get grabbed and thrown into a meat grinder, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, he wrote the first 2, John Hughes.
Okay,
so,
fair enough. Yep, credit where credit's due then.
Yes, so... so don't watch Home Sweet Home Alone then.
I mean, it's better than 4 and 5. Like, I'm not...
Yeah, but like... If I have better things to watch this season...
Yeah, I mean, our reviews and Collector's Cut will be coming out over December, all 6 of them. Home Sweet Home Alone... Like, at least I can commend it for trying something different, but the biggest problem with it is that they spend so much time focusing on characters that are not the kid, that the kid feels like an afterthought in a Home Alone movie.
Tacked on.
Which is really weird, because it's a Home Alone movie. Plus, they get a bit nostalgia wankery as well.
Yeah, that I remember when it came out. Did it come out 2 years ago? A year ago?
2021, I think it was.
Yeah, I remember that being the thing everybody was talking about. So.
There. Go on, say the line you said in the first movie. Go on, say it. Say it. Let everyone cheer because they remember the thing you said in the first movie. And you say it again here. People like remembering things. Clap your hands.
You sound like Ray Fiennes in the menu.
That tone is like all I could hear in my head watching, say, like Rise of Skywalker. All I feel that entire movie is like, hey, clap your hands, they got a lightsaber.
I will say, not a lot of Star Wars movies made me angry enough to throw a hat, but that one did. So, yeah.
Oh dear. The original trilogy.
I wasn't clapping. I was throwing.
We just did the original trilogy on Ace. We just did Jedi a couple of weeks ago, and the original trilogy is pretty good. Like people think I hate Star Wars, and I hate most of Star Wars.
Yeah,
but
I think you more hate the idea of what Star Wars has become.
Yes.
You don't hate the original framework for things, but just this big sprawling, massive pop culture and nostalgia.
Which
I think
it's very sprawling, but at the same time, it feels really small because they always have to tie back into Skywalker and shit.
It does. It's such a big galaxy, and give them credit for trying, but sometimes I feel like they can't help themselves.
I don't think I've ever, like, going back to Rise of Skywalker, the moment, and I guess spoilers for Rise of Skywalker if you care about the family line in Star Wars, but the moment that Rey's just told you're a Palpatine, I don't think I've ever just let out like a groan, like as audible as I did watching that in theater. I was like, just the discontent, like
you and me both.
Jesus.
There's things in there that I just rather not. Then there's other moments that really did land for me, for personal reasons, but. Yeah, most of it just don't. The entire third act.
Yeah, I don't remember most of it, to be honest.
That groan that you did was me the entire third act of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've seen it twice. It's the first of the recent Star Wars movies that I haven't seen multiple times in theaters. And then we watched it at home a year later, and I went, maybe I was too rough on it. And upon home release, I don't think I was harsh enough. So
yeah, because the glitz of the opening night fever or whatever isn't there to like help the cracks.
To help massage it.
I'll see it again at some point because we're going to eventually do them all on Ace. We'll do the whole. Whenever there's actually a new Star Wars movie coming out, which who knows when that'll be because Disney have fumbled the ball on this so much. But whenever that happens, we'll make sure we've done them all for then. So. Next up's the prequel trilogy. It's not on the schedule for the next 6 months, but maybe by the end of next year. I don't know. We'll see.
I definitely have to watch Pete's reactions to these. I would love just like a watch along with just your expressions.
Well, no commentary, just silent camera on me as I.
And me trying to get I know that kind of defeats of a watch along. But try to guess what scene you're exactly reacting to, I think would be very funny.
I feel like I would be very stoic, but you'll just sort of see me gradually slide in my chair until I'm just like hunched over at the end.
Pete's not much of a drinker, but he gets to Attack of the Clones and he becomes Connor for a hot second.
But that's just drunk on insanity. That's not... I don't need any substances to help along with that.
Oh my goodness. Well, we should talk about books now. I didn't mean to put us on such a sidetrack. I just wanted to let people know that if you're watching or listening to this, you like comics, and you should probably give Blue Beetle a shot if you haven't already.
Yeah. But if you don't feel like it.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to. I'm just it's a mild suggestion. But yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to the books then.
Mm-hmm.
Batman Off-World issue 1. This is Jason Aaron and Doug Mahnke. I wasn't sure where to put this, but I thought it's a number 1 from Jason Aaron. I should probably open the show with it and dive into it because I didn't make a point of looking into what this was too much. I'm sure we read the solicit text back when it first got put out, but I think surprise number one for this, and this isn't apparent at the start of the book, this is something that comes in a bit later when you get like a flashback to when he was still on Earth, is that this is only a year after he became Batman. That surprised me. I didn't realize this was going to be like sort of early days Batman story. So that's interesting. I think this book looks nice. I think it's very well told. I think there's a couple of badass kind of inner monologue moments for Batman that I really like. I will say that conceptually the idea that Batman realized that there was going to be alien threats and he hadn't trained against alien threats, so he threw himself into the furthest reaches of the universe to take on new alien threats with no like hope of getting home or translation, just so he could train to be a better Batman. Little far-fetched for me, but okay.
I mean, I could understand if there was a thing that like, not because Batman's not really powered by revenge, but there's some type of threat to Gotham that had come in, so he goes to investigate it, and that's how he ends up in space. Not because trading, you know.
Yeah, I was
did
hoping
not have that on my bingo card.
Yeah, because they do the flashback where it kind of implies when he first encounters an alien from this region of the universe that this is why he's out here. He's out here to train so he can take on threats like this. But the way the flashback ended, I thought, oh no, it feels like there's more to the story. Like he's commenting that he's not ready for this threat because he's not trained against it. But the narration later on heavily implied that that's just straight out that he made the choice to come out here just to train against threats that he's not fought before. And the fact that it's also like early days Batman, probably before the Justice League exists, before he knows Superman, it just feels a bit weird that he would go this.
It's crazy to me that he's meeting a Tamaranian before he meets a Kryptonian.
Yeah,
right?
that's
just in
nuts.
my head.
That's very nuts. That said, though, like that one conceptual issue put aside, I do think this is a strong written and told book. It's like I think the way it starts off with like you have like these aliens that are wearing suits, so you can't see how different they look. You just assume they're human, effectively. And they're saying, oh, there's some sort of alien ships like docked with ours, and they're going into it. It's kind of like the start of Aliens when they're going into the pod where Ripley's sleeping, and it's very mysterious. And then you see their faces, and they've got these weird alien mouths and big sharp teeth and all that. And the joke here is that no, Batman's the alien. He's this unknown entity that these beings have never seen anything like before. So when they start seeing glimpses of them, they're like, oh, he's got wings, but he seems to be flightless.
And he can produce a vapor, like a gas.
Yeah, smoke bombs.
and which was very fun, because Jason Aaron's really good at this type of storytelling where he can take something familiar and make it seem unfamiliar. Like he did that a lot in Thor and in the Avengers when I was reading those. And then even in a lot of his independent works, he'll take the familiar and make it seem alien. So here, where he's taking the alien and making it seem familiar in parts, I really like, right? Because when he starts talking about the captain, that that's any number of type of person on Earth, that Batman knows how to deal with. It's just physiologically he can't yet because he doesn't know the weaknesses and whatnot.
Yeah, and they send in more men, they send in robots to help fight him. Batman decapitates a robot with a chainsaw, which is a visual. I'll give it that.
Sure, yeah. And Doug Mahnke back on his, I would call this his Green Lantern stuff, right? Because
I can see why you say that. Yeah.
He's doing the alien stuff. He's doing these big, cool, like hero moments, like Batman with that electric chainsaw, and it just looks super rad.
Yeah, and honestly, like I think Aaron's got a better handle of the voice than say Zdarsky does, because there's a moment here when the aliens are coming in and Batman's trying to use his normal tactics, and he basically says in his narration, they don't know who I am, they don't even know what a bat is, they don't know how to feel the Batman, and then there's just one little narration box saying, not yet. That's like, okay, that was a bad, like, sometimes I think writers always try to make Batman sound badass, and I think a lot fail, and it comes off a bit try hard. That simplicity of just not yet, like they will learn to fear me is pretty cool.
It goes to what like Nolan did in those first movies, where I remember watching a behind the scenes feature, and they wanted Batman's fighting style to be like not robotic, but simple, right? Why do a jump spin kick when just a regular roundhouse will do? And I feel that's what Aaron gets with Batman's voice is like, there's no reason to have these big long monologues when he can just add a not yet.
It's efficiency, yeah. It's direct and to the point. He's not someone to, be unless it's the theatrics to scare people, which is again, which is embellishing things. By and large, he's a very to the point character. He doesn't have time for small talk. He wants to, beat the bad guys. So yeah, he's locked up. He gets knocked out by the aliens. He wakes up as a Tamaranian there. Do we get a name for her?
It's Ione.
Ione.
Or Ione. Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm gonna remember the Tamaranian's name.
Of course you do.
It's one of my brands.
And she's got sort of a bit of a harsher look than Starfire. She's got sort of face paint.
Orange. She's Orange Gamora, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, she kind of is actually.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Orange Gamora with even brighter orange hair. I think it's fair to say.
And she's with Snore. So this whole little group that they're in, right? So, with these I guess they're pirates or they're like slavers, right? As they go and they find.
They mentioned so they're traveling in this big ship which has an artificial like galactic storm that's around it, and they basically steal people and enslave them to do their bidding. And if they don't think you're going to be particularly useful, they'll give you the jobs that will just end in your death. Like I think one of them's like clearing debris from the jets or whatever it is.
Yeah, doing that or menial cleaning, that type of stuff.
Yeah, so we see Batman with a mop at one point in this this comic, which is an interesting.
What I want to talk about with her is she's what's known as a storm chaser, and it says that like she goes and retrieves people that escape. So I feel like she's not a lot more shades of gray than I think we're gonna see, because I don't see Aaron setting that up without her having to go retrieve Batman at some point.
Oh, for sure. Like she's been set up as the second main character of this book, so she's interesting. I like her though so far. She's interesting. I will say that they do a bit of a quick explanation, because I was thinking about this during the whole opening segment where they're coming onto the ship and looking for Batman, and he's trying to do his usual stealth stuff, and it ends with him getting knocked out, and that's the first third or so of the book. I was thinking that, okay, all these aliens are talking to each other, and we get this main alien with the horns, who's like the main bad guy on the ship, and he's like calling the shots, and he's the one that comes in and knocks out Batman. They're all talking to each other, and Batman's just narrating to himself, and I was thinking, oh, are they all speaking an alien language? Obviously, it's been translated for us, the reader, but are they all speaking a different language? And when Batman wakes up and he can understand the Tamaranian, he actually questions, like, why can I understand you? So they have a quick sci-fi explanation, is that they've implanted him with like a translator chip so that all the slaves could communicate. Which I guess makes some sense, because if they're stealing people off different worlds constantly, they all need to be able to communicate. So I guess they had a solution, and now we don't have to question it. It's just...
Well, they at least need to be able to communicate with him, right? To tell him what he has to do. So, but I do like when he goes, "You speak English?" She goes, "Never heard of it." There's some character to her. But yeah, and it wasn't fumbly like sometimes when you get that kind of explanation, you kind of stumble on it, or maybe we're just used to Zdarsky at this point, right? Kind of tripping over.
Look, I'm just going to say, Jason Aaron is typically a better writer than Zdarsky. Well, at least with Batman, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little moment here where she's Ione, sorry, is trying to deduce why Batman's here, that it must be for love. Like, he came here intentionally. She deduces that and says, you didn't just end up here. You came looking for this. And the question is why. It must be for love. Like, so what's their name if you went to all this trouble? And I kind of liked it in the moment as she's saying that. I was thinking, you know what, she's thinking it's a romance, and all I could think was, this is about the city. This is about the love of, like, Gotham itself. This isn't about Selina. Because I think that's what you might be tricked into thinking. Oh, is it Selina he's here for some reason? No. He's here because his one true love, Gotham City, is in trouble. So we get, like, a flashback to when it looks like the main dude that's on the ship, the leader with the horns that shows up. Maybe it's just the same species, I would presume. But some gangster in Gotham has one of these alien dudes show up, and Batman is perturbed, to say the least, that he doesn't know how to fight this thing because he doesn't know his physiology and whatnot. There's a running gag in the book. We go back to the future, or the present day timeline, if you will, and there's a running gag even before this point where there's these like test robots that are designed just to like practice fighting. Yeah. And the sort of running gag is that the robot, no matter what, will always say things like, "That was a great punch, sir. You may punch me some more if you like." And there's a few funny moments where it seems like the robot's just begging to be hit because that's its purpose. And Batman, takes off like part of his outfit. He's doing the whole topless with a cowl on, kind of, fighting Ra's al Ghul look. Yep. And he says to the robot, "Look, I need to learn how to fight all these bastards. So I want you to fight me like they would fight." And the robot's like, "You mean Punchbot can punch back?" He's like, "Yes. Fight me like all these different aliens. Like, let's start with this main race, and then we'll go through every species on this ship." And the robot's like, "This will cause you immense physical pain." He's like, "I know. Do it." So, yeah. I mean, I enjoy the storytelling here, and then the ending is him getting the shit kicked out of him by the robot, and him just saying, "I'm not, I'm not one of them. I'm not anywhere close. Not yet." So it ends with that "not yet" again. So it brings it back around. So I think it's a really well told comic. I think it looks really great. I think it's interesting that this is coming out while Superman Lost is still going on, because it was hard not to compare them a little bit.
Yeah.
And
that's where you were talking about the sci-fi in this versus the sci-fi in that, where one of my big problems with Superman Lost was it was like that writer, I'm drawing a blank on right now, it was a Priest? Yeah. Priest was almost like he had read a physics book and was trying to, throw Superman into it. This came off as the kind of sci-fi that is more pop culture-y and, easily, much more easily accessible, so yeah. Yeah,
I think this dishes the information out in a way that's fun. And even though Batman getting into space and being around none of his supporting cast and only being with aliens isn't typically what I'd say I want from a Batman book. One, it helps that there's like 4 other Batman books going on that are all doing Batman-y things, so it's not a big deal. But I think, too, the way it's written draws me in and has already given me a villain. It's already given me a character who might be an antagonist or an ally, depending on how Ione goes in the plot. It's already given me these things, and it had some humor with the punch bot. It's given me enough context and enough grounding that I'm like, okay, I'm actually kind of interested in the story. Even if conceptually there's one or two, I was like, okay, Batman shooting himself into space to do this is a bit just kind of nonsense. It's not because Batman, but it's kind of in the same sort of flavor as because Batman.
Yeah. He did spend $532 million to do this.
Yes. Which I guess I have to ask again, how rich is Bruce exactly? Because I know he's a billionaire, but that's a lot of money even to a billionaire.
Yeah, I mean that's $500 million, like right there. So
how many billions does he have? This is important. I don't know. Anyway, not bad though. I think Mahnke's art's very good. He's got the heavy inks that I associate with Mahnke. I think all the alien species look really cool. I love how bright and colourful everything in space is. Even the Tamaranian obviously is all these bright oranges and even some purple sort of mixed
Purples, greens,
there's a lot of green. Even the big 2-page spread of the ship coming through the storm. Again, it's a lot of pinks, greens, purples, all that sort of stuff. And then the flashback in Gotham looks more like a typical Batman book. It looks more like your typical blues and stuff of that. Very distinct, very natural looking in comparison. And I think that distinction goes a long way in the art, just to give it a really cool vibe. So this is by far not the first thing I would have said I wanted from a Batman book or even a Jason Aaron Batman book, although I can see kind of how you can compare this to his Thor a little bit by saying, no, it's intergalactic. It's just not the first character you'd expect to take on this journey. But, I mean, so far, the rating of Batman's inner monologue is on point in a way that I really don't like about Zdarsky, whereas here it feels like it's right. Despite the ridiculous circumstance he's in, he sounds right.
Right.
So,
which that's kind of the trick as the writer, right? Is to make you be like, is that going to work? And then he makes it work.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it definitely makes me, I'm a lot more hopeful about his Superman, right? Because sometimes I think Batman for for all this talk of all writers want to work on Batman and stuff, sometimes I think it's a lot more of a hassle to get Batman right, almost than Superman. So when knowing how he did this, I'm a lot more eager to read his Action Comics stuff that's coming out next year.
Yeah, I am curious because he's doing this, which is very much like its own little corner of a book. Arguably even out of continuity, depending. Maybe they'll say it's in continuity by the end. Some sort of thing in present day, I don't know. But he's doing this. I know he's doing 3 issues of Action, but it is just like a 3-issue thing. I do wonder if these DC projects are going to lead to Jason Aaron being on an ongoing, like a big ongoing book properly. By the time we get to the end of 2024. I'm kind of expecting it just based on these 2 projects that he's on. I don't know which book it would be, but
I mean, those are both pretty high profile, right? Between Action and a Batman mini.
Yeah.
You know, so
it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up replacing Zdarsky, and maybe I'm kind of hoping that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's that. Speaking out, because normally I would say, because him, after reading his story, I always wanted to know what he would do with Superman, but now reading this, I'd love to read a Green Lantern Corps book. From Aaron, to see what kind of fun space shenanigans we can get into. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be Hal or John. I mean, we have a whole Corps to work with, right? I almost wish it could kind of go back to not an anthology, but, you know, Tales of the Green Lantern Corps.
Well, it wouldn't even have to replace either of the 2 books that are out just now. It could just be a 3rd Green Lantern book, which I don't know if the market's there to support that necessarily, but it's there's nothing in saying that you can't do that.
But yeah, it's very, very surprised by this. So I put this off for as long as I could this week, and was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think I was putting it off as well because I think conceptually I just wasn't that into it. But yeah, but hey, that ended up being quite good. So I guess we're ready to rate Batman Off-World issue 1. What you giving it, Matt?
I'll give it a solid 7.5.
Yeah, I think it just about gets to the 8. Like conceptually, I've got some misgivings, but it was well told. It looked great. I'm down to see what the rest of this story is, and it's kind of a little bit Superman lost for Batman. It's also a little bit of Warworld saga for Batman as well in a way, you know, and that they're all enslaved, and he's going to go up against the Mongol, if you will, of the ship. So I'm curious to see how that goes. So very good. Superman issue 8, legacy number 851, Joshua Williamson writing with Gleb Melnikov, David Baldeón, and Jamal Campbell on the art. So, yeah, you know, I'll give Superman credit right now, is that while it's had some rocky issues here or there from Williamson, I'm finding it very easy to remember everything that just happened in the previous issue. Like, as soon as this started, I was like, okay, I remember exactly where we were. With the Chained, and like him meeting Farm and Graft, and the fight that had just happened. So when this started with a little flashback to young Chained, obviously it wasn't called that at the time.
Yeah.
I think they mentioned a name here.
Sammy Stryker.
Yeah, I knew it was Stryker, obviously, because he's Stryker's son, but basically Lex has still got a little bit of ginger hair here, and
just like wisps. He's trying to come over, and it's not working for him.
But it turns out the reason why Superboy Connor Kent sort of connected to his powers a little bit is because Connor's telekinetic powers are literally a diluted version of the Chain's powers. There is a and
tactile telekinesis.
And Lex was involved in the creation of both of them. Not of him as a person, but in giving him powers he was involved in. So makes sense. So that all ties together. Grafton Farms show the Chained what Lex has been up to over the past couple decades.
And he doesn't take that news very well. He's just like, we gotta tear the cord down, even though there's a big Superman logo on there now.
Oh, he's not happy. He sees the President Lex. He's not feeling good about it. So Superman goes to Lex to demand some answers. Lex is a little bit snippy about not being saved from being stabbed, but he's like, you know what? The old Lex would have plotted revenge from this second on, but I'm the new Lex, so I'm not going to do that. I'm still not sure I believe you, Lex, but...
100% I know, because the fact that if he was really new Lex, he would have been like, oh, I understand. There's 14 other things you were dealing with at the time. This Lex was like, you didn't save me? all right, well, I'll remember this. You know, it's just I gotta give Williamson credit here on making Lex the pettiest version, and I'm always down for petty Lex.
Yeah, I am definitely enjoying this chain storyline more, just because it feels like it's getting enough time to actually tell its story.
It's a lot more focused.
Yeah. So the chain shows up at the hospital and grabs Lena Luthor and is like, "Hey, you have your dad's eyes. Oh, I'm going to kill you," to upset him. Obviously, Superman and Connor sort of fly off in his chains to pull him away, which saves the kid. She still doesn't like her dad very much, and Lex looks miffed about this for a panel before he's ready to go back into work. So we get in a big fight with the Chained, and Lex has got, Mercy or whoever also working on a solution. It all bubbles out down to Clark getting a suit, because it turns out the one weakness that he programmed into the powers of the Chained was this radioactive meteor rock that he found in Smallville. So would you believe it? His weakness is kryptonite.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit weird, though. I'm just gonna be like a part of me doesn't even care where Williamson goes with this. It's very Smallville, right? That the meteorite is, the cause for and the solution to all of the answers on that show, of all the problems. Right?
Oh yeah, every freak of the week had some kryptonite in their cereal, and that's why they had powers. That was the plot of every episode almost.
So here's that, but it does give us a very cool visual of Clark showing up in the suit, which if Williamson's trying to sell action figures, put me down for one of these.
Yeah, it's like a cool Superman astronaut suit with like bright green kryptonite gloves,
like gauntlets.
Yeah. So this does win, but Superman's helmet gets cracked while he's fighting him, and then eventually there's this it's like a bunch of seatbelt dispensers that all kind of fly towards the Chained and wrap him up like a mummy, and that sort of contains him. But the big ending of the issue is that Clark, with the suit now off, is covered in kryptonite and looks a little bit worse for the wear, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, he's had better days.
Yeah.
For sure.
So he's getting some armor next issue, apparently, to make up for his weakness, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I mean, I guess the critique you could maybe have is that so much of this issue, once again, is fighting, that there's not actually that much stuff to talk about as far as like characters go, but it's entertaining enough. The layouts are good, although it is worth mentioning there's multiple artists on this book, so the art does shift around a little bit.
Yeah, to a detriment for sure, because it's kind of distracting when it shifts from Melnikov to Campbell, because there's I love both of those artists, but their styles are not compatible to me at all.
Yeah, and there's a third artist who I think stuck out as well. Campbell's pages, does he have any before the last two?
I don't know.
That's the only ones I'm going through it quickly just now, and the only two pages I'm recognizing as Campbell is the last two.
Gotcha, because I just remember turning the page and it was Stark, to those.
Yeah, and the flashbacks, one artist, and then I think it's Melnikov doing the bulk, and then Campbell does a little bit at the end.
I will say too, with Graft and Farm, them talking about how Lex Luthor, it kind of sounds like he pulled one over on them, and I don't think that it's what we think it is. I think that goes more to the Lex's false memories storyline, that I feel like he set them up to take the fall. I almost feel like he was trying to make himself look like a hero to get in there, if this is what we're going, young superhero Lex. But just a lot of their dialogue when they're explaining to the Chained about what Lex did and what he did to them and how they're motivated by revenge, it definitely doesn't add up. Him just simply thwarting them doesn't seem to justify all of their actions. And also, is it them that are talking about the different experiments, on they're talking about Marilyn Moonlight, and because they're talking about Farm and Graft and their experiments on Marilyn Moonlight, who's the cowgirl.
Yeah, they mentioned Marilyn Moonlight.
which I did not think. You know.
Yeah, we don't hear them say it in that scene. It's later on when he's fighting Superman where Chained brings it up.
That's right.
He mentions, they told me all about what they did to Metallo and Bizarro and to Marilyn Moonlight. So it gives a connection between her and Lex, which is new. That is a new bit of like mythology that we're building with her. Mm-hmm. So
curious to see where that goes. Yeah. But yeah, and also you're talking about all the seat belts and stuff to get the chain. Where this was the first time, as much as I love Superboy, I never really understood the tactile telekinesis and how it was different than regular comic book telekinesis, and just the description that it's this aura around his body that makes the super stuff accessible to him, right? The flight, the strength, everything. So the fact, like, essentially putting this super straitjacket on the Chained is one of the things that can cordon him. So all of these straps coming around like a straitjacket, I thought was a pretty good solution. Based off of the information we were given.
Yeah, because they mentioned that as a kid, like the Chained had to touch something to be able to control it, but then he like started pushing further and could do it without touching it. So, which I mean, to me that explains tactile telekinesis. Because I'm like, okay, so you can make something move around, but you still have to have contact with a part of it. But then obviously he moves beyond that. At which point I would say it's just regular telekinesis. Right. But who am I to? Right,
but to me he's expanding his aura, right? And that's why when they can strap him tight, that negates him being able to expand it for whatever reason. But
that makes some sense. I mean, as much sense as this type of thing.
Right, tactile telekinesis is, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, credit to Williamson on that one for being able to, just tell a story here without too many. We've had issues in the past with him doing like too much too fast, and so here, like you brought up, like it's taking its time, and being able to focus on the Chain and whatnot.
I think this is an enjoyable enough issue as the ongoing arc. I think the art does jump around a bit too much, and I think sometimes some of the Chain's face especially sometimes looks a little, but I don't want to be too harsh here, but it's veering on a little Romita Jr. at times.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
That's where, when you went that way, I was wondering where you were going.
Yeah, just a little bit. So I think that does drag it in a little bit. It is a lot of fighting, but there's some interesting tidbits, and I do appreciate that they're building up the Chained as this big thing, and in turn, like, we don't know what Lex did to Graft and Farm yet, but given what he did to the Chained, which was, give this kid superpowers and then lock him up because he was too dangerous after he killed his dad, it does feel like whatever is to be revealed about Farm and Graft, it feels like, Lex probably did do something really heinous, if that's the level we're working on here. So, all right, what are you giving Superman issue 8?
I'm giving it a 7.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll give it a 7. I think the art probably does drop at half a point to a point down to that, but 7 out of 10. All right, Wonder Woman issue 3 Legacy 803. This is Tom King and Daniel Sampere on the art. Obviously this has been a standout book the last couple issues, and I don't think we'll be saying anything different about this one.
No, flipping King getting his artists to do 9-panel grids and them just absolutely killing it. I'm getting real tired of seeing that, because now he's just flexing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but to be fair though, like, some of those prestige books that he's done have been almost entirely 9-panel grids, which is the odd exception. This isn't like that. This does have more varied layout, so there's just some 9-panel grids sort of in there.
But it works. The one in particular that we'll get to, that's kind of the climax of the issue, where 2 stories are going on at once. I was looking at Sampere's art, and there's not a lot of dialogue going on, right? A lot of the art's doing the storytelling. And I was just like, man, King just lets these guys cook.
I think this is a great example, and I know if Connor tried this book, he'd probably be whining about how it has too much words, but I think this is a great example of wordy narration being so well done and making it feel very dense. And it is a dense book. It took me twice as long to read this than any other book this week, despite the fact that it's the same size. Well, maybe not cutting the back up, but as far as the main 20-page story goes. And I think all the issues so far have been really good in how they've focused on like one scene with Wonder Woman, You know, like the last issue was all just set around the fight where the army was coming to get her. This issue, it's all about her going to this building, which it says it's like a, you know, it's like a cover building, but it's actually the base for where Steel works and where his office is.
Axe.
Yeah, Sergeant Steel, that is not.
Yes, because when you said Steelworks, I got very confused for a second. And then I was like, it's
where,
it's two words.
It's where Sergeant Steel works.
Right?
Yes, just to be clear on that. Nothing to do with John Henry Irons.
Yep.
So it does this thing where it's done a really good job, and we're seeing more of her now that we're in issue 3, but it still does that trick of the first few pages have been like, no, we're just going to tease a foot. We're just going to have her walk in, and the guy at the desk isn't paying attention to her, and we just hear her ask the question, could you direct me to where Sergeant Steele's office is? And he's like, lady, you're misunderstood. And he's just doing his crossword, which, by the way, they've got a bunch of creators referenced in this crossword. We got Perez, we got Jimenez. Yeah. So, but then he looks up and he sees Wonder Woman, and he caves immediately and just drops the cover and says, that's 32A, miss. And she's like, thank you. So it's all set around her going up to this office to speak to Sergeant Steele because she's heard that he's had a breakthrough in the Emily case and the murder at the pool hall. So she's going up to speak to him about that. Meanwhile, what are we calling this bad guy again? I forgot his name.
He's the Sovereign.
Sovereign, thank you.
Yep.
We see him in present day, which I think it's the first time we've seen him in present day. I
mean, they hinted at him and we saw him on the throne, right? But we didn't see him at all in the last issue. It was all just narration.
Yeah. Was that throne in present day? Maybe it was. But his narration, which it seems to be him, is definitely in the future because he's talking to Trinity.
Yep.
So, yeah. So we have two ongoing scenes in this issue. It's Wonder Woman going up to Sergeant Steele's office and talking to him, and it's the Sovereign at his mansion getting a visit from a guest that he's requested, which is this young soldier who was in the army that tried to fight Wonder Woman and obviously failed. So this stuff, like, it starts off like immediately I was getting this vibe that the Sovereign's about to use this young guy in a way that's just going to dispose of him. I mean, obviously at this point I wasn't thinking straight up this will lead to his death, but I definitely got the vibe that he was going to just use and disregard him. It's all, you know, and he's got like the gun that shot Lincoln in his collection, and the soldiers kind of admiring all these heirlooms that he's got. And he's like, yeah, I'm interested in American history and whatnot. Wonder Woman, meanwhile, beats up a guy in an elevator as the elevator music's playing.
I love that scene.
It's pretty funny.
It's just the way there's that one, and then when she gets off the elevator and we're not seeing any of the violence, we're just getting like the essence of it as the tiara is bouncing off of them.
Yeah, there's a page just set up where you see the SWAT team on the other side of the elevator, and they're like, okay, prepare for this, blah, blah. And she just throws the tiara out as soon as the elevator opens, and then the next page is just 4 panels of her standing there. She yawns. She sort of casually dodges a bullet or reflects a bullet with her bracelet as she's like getting her eye. She's got her finger in her eye, clearing out some sleep. I love the way she is just so nonchalantly just waiting for her tiara to do all the work, and then she eventually steps out, and we get her walking past all the unconscious bodies.
It's so good.
It's really,
and that's Sampere cooking here, right? Because like I don't know what was in that script, right? But you know, Sampere just wiping the sleep from her eye, the yawn, the casual bringing up her hand to deflect the bullet. Like this is nothing. I
like to think Tom King sends a fully drawn comic by Tom King with all the dialogue, and Sampere has to look at it and be like, okay, let's see if I can turn this into can I decipher what these stick figures are supposed to be doing and turn it into real comic book art.
They're King storyboards are what they are. Right?
Tom King's on the phone like, don't worry Dan, I'll draw you the page so you've got a rough idea what I want. And he's like, Tom, it's not helping Tom, you're just making me confused.
I do like to think that he's in contact, that Sampere's in contact with Garrett's, and is like, hey, can you help me decipher this? He's like, I got you. I speak fluently.
Mitch, you got that Tom King Rosetta Stone handy so I can translate all this?
Oh, my God. And that's what I love. Like, as I was sorting through my comics yesterday, I got all of my, Tom King prestige, and I just look at those. I'm like, even just in singles, they're so good. Like, I was looking at the Human Target stuff, and
oh yeah,
there's almost an aura to these, type of, and I'm glad he's bringing that to a monthly book for the first time in a while.
Oh, for sure. I was just thinking about his prestige books the other day and how Danger Street's really great, and I've been loving it, and it's got some fantastic issues, but it might be like 4th or 5th if I was to rank them, and that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's how good like those prestige books are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'd have to really think about what the order at the top is, but I'm like, no, I think I definitely like Strange Adventures, Mr. Miracle, and Human Target, and probably even Rorschach more than Danger Street. And I love Danger Street.
Yeah, I mean, up until Human Target, it was Rorschach. So like Human Target and Rorschach are up there, and then it's kind of, but even then, even Danger Street, as much as I love it, and putting it at 5 seems like I don't like it, but it's just like everything above it.
Yeah, I think after that, there's a bit of a gap, and then you got Killing Time, and then there's a big gap after that for Batman Catwoman. That's right at the bottom.
Don't forget Woman of Tomorrow.
Oh, of course, yeah.
There's Woman of Tomorrow in there somewhere.
To be fair, I do think I'd put that below Danger Street if I was to compare them.
Okay.
Now that we're 11 issues in, I feel confident in saying that. I love Women of Tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, but it's
that's what I'm talking about. So as I'm looking, because when I get my boxes, those are all going into one box. Just so I have my Tom King stuff, and now I'm going to be throwing Wonder Woman in there on top of it. So
but anyway,
back to the issue, because I want to talk about the Sovereign stuff.
Yeah, the Sovereign stuff's super interesting. Obviously, this idea we've had characters like this in Wonder Woman before who, we're kind of looking at toxic masculinity, we're looking at misogyny, we're looking at characters who see Wonder Woman's existence as a threat to the patriarchy, if you want to call it that. And that's very much what the Sovereign is kind of getting at in this, but mostly in his narration, but even at the little hints that he's doing when he's talking to this soldier. The big thing is that when he starts talking to him, and again, he's talking about this baton that was used in police riots and how his father or grandfather would use it to beat up like the peasants or something.
To beat him when he got out of line.
Oh, was it him? Okay, I must remember.
And it was an honor because of what this was used for, right? And you're looking at all of these artifacts, and they're all on the wrong side of history, as it came out, right? In
fact, isn't there even a hint that someone from his family gifted Booth the gun that killed Lincoln? Yeah.
Yes. Which, again, once you start getting into, because I could talk about this all day, right, about American history and how people pervert it and twist it to their own means, right? Like, there's a group of people that believe that the Confederate States of America are the true United States of America. That is what the country set out to be, right? And you can give them all the information you want, and it's not going to change it. So the idea that King's playing with that is it's not like it's this thing, that was the culmination of one of the darkest chapters of American history, right? And it killed the president that, and all us, helped end slavery, helped unite the country. That's the stories, right? That's the history that is out there. This is coming from the alternate perspective, like, well, no, this is the gun that did him in, and that's why it's an artifact, right? It did our cause. And the same with the, this police baton that it's hinted at that it was used in the civil rights riots, right? To beat back the people that were wanting equal rights. And so the Sovereign is using this and explaining how and he keeps saying we, like when he refers to himself, he's referring to we. It's not singular, which I find interesting.
But also ties into this idea that, like, he says that they're this the Sovereign that's passed, this the title that's passed down. They have been manipulating things to keep the status quo that they want. So the idea that they did hand the gun to the gunman who took out Lincoln is like this idea that for centuries they've been manipulating the course of events through.
I mean, from when they got into it in the last issue, it was from the time the country was settled, they were running their own thing, right? So this just reiterates that. And the guy that he's talking to too is this soldier that grew up in Smallville. He's kind of a rube. Like, he asks him at a certain point, he goes, weren't you like embarrassed that Wonder Woman was the one that beat you guys because she's just a woman? And he goes, no, she's not. That's Wonder Woman. She's a superhero. Like,
the guy
how are we supposed to compete?
Yeah, the guy gives such a healthy response. He's just like, I won't lose sleep over it. It's not a big deal. She's Wonder Woman. She's a goddamn superhero. Like, I ain't gonna cry. Like, like, I'm in the military, like, I'll go back to base, I'll get paid for another day's work, and I won't lose sleep over it. Like, he has such a healthy attitude towards it.
Yeah.
And it's, like, clear where this sort of conversation's kind of going, but this is where he pulls out the lasso of lies and says, hey, this is another artifact you like to see. And he has him hold it, and then I'll skip over the Wonder Woman scene here, we'll go back to that. He has him hold it, and we see how it works. Now, we could have probably predicted this is how it works, because it's kind of self-explanatory, but instead of obviously making him tell the truth when you hold it, if whoever else is holding the lasso of lies, you can then tell a lie to, and they will believe it. Like, you will change their perception on something. And what he does here is he says, you are embarrassed by Wonder Woman emasculating you, by you're so distraught about it that you're going to tell everyone you can that this is made you feel less of a man, and then you're going to have to end your life because you can't live with this. And clearly, like, I would assume the intent here is to start to build like a smear campaign against Wonder. Look, she made this good young man like commit suicide kind of thing. But obviously this is super dark, this is super but this idea that this young soldier is a pawn in like a politician's like game for power to maintain what he sees as the natural order of power is such a like sadly a relatable thing to the real world of like he is just being used as a tool here to for public perception. That's all this is.
Right. And that's, you know, looking at Tom King, and, you know, he lives in DC. He sees this stuff. Like, you know, he's tuned into the news and whatever's going on in society and culture. And this is, I believe this is his commentary on what's going on now, right? That if you give enough young men enough of these lies that make themselves like, you make them feel like they're not adequate enough, but then it's not their fault. It's everybody else's fault. You can steer them to do what you want, you know? And that's what he's doing here, is the Sovereign is using this one in particular, right, who he goes home and does what the Sovereign told him to.
Yeah, he writes a suicide note, and he shoots himself,
That it was because of Wonder Woman that, you know, it's her fault that I feel this way.
It's this thing you see where enough opinions start to shift where, hey, things are more progressive. People like this guy whose response is like, no, I'm not embarrassed it was a woman. It was Wonder Woman. Like she's a tough badass. Like, I'm not going to care about this.
The way that he says it is, she's a superhero. Like, it was almost like, what did you expect? You know, like. So
now the Sovereign has to create the narrative. That's the phrase to use. Creating the narrative that this is what she is doing to men, and therefore we have to fight back against that. So, like, again, I'm saying it's for public perception because that's the clear guess right now. It could be more than that. Maybe we'll see more direct fallout from this next issue. But I thought this was a really intense. I think this book has been very good at touching on very strong real world issues from issue 1 with the immigration stuff and the xenophobia. And the particularly the misogyny and the patriarchy and the reaction to, we can't have a strong woman who's making us feel like we're less of men. That's what this is what the Sovereign forces upon this young man, even though his attitude seems to be perfectly reasonable before that point. Right,
and this man's a soldier. He's what you would call, you know, like, he's like a man's man, right, is what you would think of. He's doing this masculine job of protecting the country. And he's like, no, it's not a problem to me. Like, it's just another part of the job.
And I think obviously this is also maybe critical of the idea of, like, you know, convincing people to sign up to the military, but then they're just used as fodder kind of thing. Like, I think there's an element of that in there.
Well, yeah, definitely, because the fact that he's from Smallville, from this little town, that he's like, you probably have never heard of it. It's in nowhere, Kansas, right? You know, just this guy that's. He's expendable, right?
I like the irony of that is that these characters don't know this, but that town is so important because it produced Superman. But they don't know that because no one knows Superman's from Smallville.
And that's the layers that King is using of this on, and just the idea too that when you get to that page, when you're following the 9-panel grid, all of this story they're done in like heavy blues and like dark and shadow, compared to the Wonder Woman on the the following panels.
It's all bright colors,
bright color, and it really just adds to the mood of, you know, almost like if you're watching a movie, the cross cutting. It's almost like you're watching two different movies. And it's just that whole sequence. I was just like, it made me super sad, right? Because this guy that seeing what the Sovereign's able to do with these lies, how he's able to completely change his life, just to be a cog in the wheel.
I think it's so good because it's a mixture of obviously establishing all the mythology of what the Lasso of Lies is, but all of it has real meaning. Like it's all representing, it's all an analogy for the real world. You can see the themes that it's playing with, and just the way it sets up this villain, but it's like a really very real existential threat. And it also is great because it is the opposite of Wonder Woman, who's all about truth. It's all, she's all about that,
right? The
idea of misconception and trying to build a narrative that goes against the truth, and that being like the natural enemy for Wonder Woman is so perfect that and I love that it does have something to say. I love that the book is doing kind of darker, riskier things where it's not pulling punches with its commentary, and that to me is what this was. So very good stuff. Wonder Woman, we get this great page where it starts off on it's like the doors like label, the nameplate.
Like the sign.
And then but it's like the camera's pulling back with each panel, and you see that it's actually broken and on the floor because Wonder Woman smashed through it.
She kicked the door down.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. But Sergeant Steele's pointing a gun directly at Wonder Woman, and there's a whole bunch of narration. And we should really mention here the narration from the Sovereign is very much pushing these narratives of what Wonder Woman's doing to the men, and things like that. About how they feel like they're a failure and all that.
Yes, and it makes it seem like they have no choice in this. Like they don't have to fight her, right? Like, sure, they're doing their job, but they're taking the Sovereign's taking all of their agency away in the narrative that he's saying. By an effort, he's the one that's actually emasculating them.
Oh, for sure, yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is a nice little twist in the story, because as we see, like she's just going through them like it's nothing. So it adds again another little twist.
Just to back in the xenophobia, part of what he says here is that these Amazons, like they make everyone feel lesser because they're not gods like them, but they're not actually propagating that. You're reading it that way. You're saying they make you feel like lesser, and you're trying to convince everyone else that hey, they're making you feel like you're a lesser being, so we should get rid of them, right? It's that again. It's going back to that fear of the other, that fear of the outsider. And if this outsider happens to be better than us, even though they're not actually better, but you believe they could be, you have to villainize them to make yourself feel better that you're the better one. It's all comes back to all this stuff.
Perception is reality, right?
Yeah.
That's that. But and onto that too is that he talks about early on in the book of when she came here, right? Like she fell in love with a pilot and came here and dressed in all of our colors, and she, did her best to assimilate, but no matter what, she could never be one of us. And I think that also goes into that whole xenophobia thing, right? Is that they're pretending to be one of us, even though they'll never be one of us. And yeah, it's disgusting when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
And it fits perfect for a villain.
So yeah, obviously Steele's got a bunch of reinforcements coming. Wonder Woman's like, just tell me what you've got on the case. Like all this fighting me is very adorable and all that. But he's he's like, I've got an army, and she's at the window at this point, and she turns around. Look, 17 men are dead, right? My sister is missing, meaning the Amazon, not a literal sister.
Emily.
Just to be clear, and it's caused all this sickness, and I want to fix it. And he just keeps yelling, "I've got an army." And then she says, "I've got an invisible jet," and that's this. You turn the page, and it's this 2-page spread where the jet's sitting outside the window.
Beautiful.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one. It's like all of these issues have had at least one big 2-page spread moment like this, where it pulls a little reveal where you feel like it's just it's phenomenal.
It makes Wonder Woman feel larger than life. It really does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like
for as much as the villain in this is trying to make Wonder Woman look smaller and make her look weak and a threat, this book is doing such a good job of making her look like the biggest deal possible. Like she is important. She is like the big threat kind of thing.
For sure. I also want to say I've always thought the invisible jet was like this goofy idea. Like I don't understand why it was ever there in the thing when she can fly. And I know back early days she couldn't fly. But just the whole idea, I don't know, maybe it was saving pencils, right? Of not driving the jet, right? And then when you look at at Wonder Woman 84, just the way that they introduced the Invisible Jet, super hokey and silly. But here, when it turns and she goes, I have an invisible jet, and it's just peering at him, I'm like, maybe the Invisible Jet is cool, right? And that's the beauty of storytelling, right? Is they can take this concept that's, I don't particularly care for, but in this one moment, I have to admit, like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Steele whips out a file on the evidence they've got from the crime scene. They found some blood from the Amazon. She must have got scratched by a pill cue or something. And the big reveal at the end here is that she's pregnant. And so, first of all, it makes me go, wait, when they announced Trinity was Wonder Woman's daughter, we all assumed by blood. And this immediately makes me go, is she more adopted because the real mother ends up dead or whatever?
Something.
It might go. I think, so this is obviously a fascinating cliffhanger that maybe tells us the start of Trinity. And the fact that the last panel is Trinity being told this story seemingly by the Sovereign behind bars, and her reaction looks like she's learning who her real mother is here. And maybe she thought it was Wonder Woman all these years. I don't know. I'm basing that on the art of this one panel and her reaction.
Right. Well, and then see, I think there's so many different pathways for Wonder Woman to have a daughter. Her being the daughter of the Amazon that started all this wasn't on my list of things.
No.
So that's again a nice little wrinkle.
It's not like Hippolyta gave birth to Diana in a traditional sense either, so it's not even that weird.
No, because I just thinking about this too is I had assumed like she's like, I'm ready for motherhood after this adventure, right?
Yeah, Steve, give me some semen.
Well, I was gonna say not even Steve, but just the clay, right? She's gonna do
the clay, okay.
she's gonna do for a new life what Hippolyta did for her, right? Because at the end of this, she sees it would be bad to introduce a kid into this world, but we need more hope, right? And so that's a very Wonder Woman thing. So I could see at the end of this, like, we need to make a better world for our future, and that's what leads to Trinity, But here, this wrinkle, it definitely fits in with Wonder Woman and the idea of the Amazonians being this village that raises a child, right? So it's almost like she's all of the Amazon's child.
Yeah, it is interesting as well that just an Amazon being pregnant. Like, I don't think I've read a story where an Amazon is pregnant in present day.
Yeah, not in present day. Definitely the Azzarello definitely got up to that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But... less we talk about that one, the further we get away from that, the more it's kind of, I don't enjoy that.
I tried reading that run twice, and I gave up both times.
I like the run for the most part, just that sequence of the Amazonians and how they procreate. Not a fan. There's magic in this world, Azzarello. We can do that. But yeah, so just the idea, maybe that's why she reacted the way she did, because now she's, trying to protect two lives, right? From these men, I
mean, she doesn't have to be as murderous, so I think there's still more to it, perhaps, than that. Although, maybe we'll get to the point where her Amazon, hormones are just so, on the fritz because of the pregnancy. It begs the question, though, does she know she's pregnant?
That also adds to the question, But yeah, it was. But also, and this is what King's done so well on this, is how do we know what the Sovereign's saying is the truth, right? He kind of is the king of lies.
Oh, for sure. But so he's not the one that says this, though.
No. But I'm just saying, like, with Trinity, right? He's saying the story back. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Wait, so you're telling me we can't trust anything we're seeing? I feel like that's maybe a little... I think I think anything that's not the narration, I'm taking at face value, because I feel like it gets really weird and complex if you all of a sudden say every single thing we're seeing in this entire story is from his lies, so we can't trust any of it.
That's true. My main point is, when it comes to this big reveal like this, is he telling her this to break her down, right? About Diana, about the Amazons, you know what I mean?
I'm sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's an ulterior motive to the Sovereign, and I feel like that's where the 3D style storytelling comes in. But I think everything that we're seeing with Diana is true. I do think Emily is pregnant, but is Trinity her daughter?
I think especially because there's contrast between his narration and what we're seeing. I think that confirms that what we're seeing is real, because we're seeing his manipulated take on it in the narration, but we're seeing the unfiltered version in the actual panels. Right. If that makes sense. But it is interesting, though, that Trinity's been held captive. It's interesting that, like, you know, what is the end game here other than to just turn her against her mother, perhaps?
Right.
I don't know, but we see how heinous he is in present day, so it can't be anything good.
Yep, definitely.
Especially if he's in a place in the future where the future he wanted didn't happen, so maybe he's more desperate. Maybe because he even references in this that we're in this shitty prison and we have, like, you know, crap food. We have to beg for more. He talks about the glory days of having a palace, of having servants. Right. So he's seemingly lost all that in the future. Yeah. So he's probably got a bit of a vendetta to grind.
For sure. The other thing that I wanted to bring up too was in his narration where he talks about the real trick of this is to, you know, he compares it to, like, it's snowing outside and people knocking at your door to beg. And then you convince them that you're worse off, right? That you're worse off, you know, in there because it's too hot.
Yeah, and then convince them outside that you're in here burning because it's too hot. Yeah, that was the line.
That you're burning because it's too hot, and then point and laugh at them looking at you through the windows. And I was just like, oh my God, King, you were doing the issues that I have in the real world. You were doing a very good job at conveying.
Oh yeah, this guy is he's a total 1%. He's the 1% of the 1% style. Yeah, he's like laughing through the windows at their frosted faces. Yes. I think was the line.
Yeah, and it's, you know, basically convince you that our problems are real problems and your problems aren't, and that if you want us to solve your problems, you gotta, you know, just do what we say, you know, to help us out. And it was just like, oof, this dude is evil. So, but yeah, I'm really enjoying this book. Like King on a monthly, you know, in continuity series is just hitting through these first three.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. All right. I mean, we've mentioned Sampere's art a little bit. I'll just reiterate, it looks fantastic. The big moments are great. I appreciate the lighting, the coloring on that last panel on Trinity, because it's very much like dawn's coming through the window or dusk's coming through the window behind her. It's got that glow to it. Looks very different. 2-page spreads, gorgeous. I love how angry Sergeant Steele's getting. Again, he's very much the angry man who hates being challenged by the woman. Whilst Wonder Woman is completely calm the entire time, as she is. So, all very good. So, it's wonderful stuff. Matt, what are you giving Wonder Woman issue 3?
Oh, we're not going to talk about the backup?
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about the backup. Read out of the backup.
Real quick.
We already talked so much about the book, I forgot there was a backup.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This was one that I just need to talk about Wonder Robin. That's the main part.
No, we can talk about the backup. I just I'd forgotten about it. Okay, my first, I've got a critique here before we talk about anything else. This says a few years from now, right at the top, but there's a reference here later on that it's actually 5 years in the future.
Yep.
Right. Because little Trinity is 5, and John mentions that he's been Superman for about 5 years. So fair enough. I'll read that as 5 years in the future. Why is Damian still a teenager?
Damian is still 13 years old.
Yeah, it's weird. I was like, he should be 18.
Right.
He should have been aged up for this
He should
story.
Look more comparable to John than he ever has.
Yeah,
in this.
He absolutely should. This was so weird. Like, why is he? It feels like he's gotten younger, not older.
Yeah, it is that Al Gold blood. Maybe he ages in reverse, like Benjamin Button.
So weird. Oh, don't remind me of that stupid movie. I don't want to think about it. But that aside, that one big glaring complaint aside. This is a story where John has to speed off and do Superman stuff, so Damian's stuck babysitting Trinity.
And they were both supposed to, right? Yeah. This is a double job for the Super Sons.
Yeah, and she throws some food at Damian, and then he says a swear word, which obviously is censored, but then she repeats it. She puts her hand up and says shit. And like John starts saying, "Oh, you're in trouble. You taught Wonder Woman's daughter a swear word," and he tries to like tell her not to say it. And this is a great running gag that comes back to play at the end. But yeah, we get this scene where Damien's like, "Screw this! I'm going to go be Robin. Come on, Wonder Robin, we're going out." So we get this cute, 5-year-old girl in like a Robin outfit with a skirt and like knee pads and elbow pads. It's pretty adorable, I have to say.
And she wants to only be called Wonder Robin. Like, don't call her. Which we find also that her name's Lizzie, right?
Yeah, I think that's new. That's new information. I think.
So we find out. So
Damien has to tie her shoes because she doesn't know how.
Oh my god! And him saying that he learned that from his grandpa or from mom and grandpa, and then when he messed it up, grandpa locked him in a box in the desert. And Lizzie's like, "Well, why was it that bad?" And just Damien kind of laughing it off, just to show how dysfunctional of a childhood he had. I thought was really good timing.
You're not going to put me in a box in the desert if I mess it up, right? Right?
Yeah. Gosh, she's for a 5-year-old girl. She has all the character. I love it.
Do you know what? It's not actually laid out this way, but I almost wish for the reference they'd sequenced this. You know that meme from Attack of the Clones where it's Padme saying something like, you don't mean this, right? And then Anakin just sort of stares at her, right? And he starts. I almost wish they'd laid it out like that.
That would have been pretty funny.
Yeah, they didn't. But it made me think of it though, because she says "right" again in a panel. Yeah. So yeah, Damien's fighting Killer Croc and Wonder Robin. Sorry, it's
Wonder Robin.
So it's an awkward name to remember. There's too many.
It is
too many variations. But she jumps in and kicks Croc so hard that he goes like into a wall, and they have to take him to Mr. Terrific to like get patched up.
And Dr. Midnight,
And Dr. Midnight. That's what it was. And Damien's just spouting superhero lesson 27, superhero lesson 44,
23.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And then when John gets back that night at the manor, Damien just admits, she kicked Killer Croc, and there was a whole thing. And he's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't tell Wonder Woman everything that happened tonight. And he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then the final page is just her. She's sleeping on Damien's lap, and she just sort of says shit again in her sleep. The idea that their influence is just it's too late. She's already been influenced by Damien and John.
Yeah. This trio is really they've already won my hearts.
Yeah. Damien being the same age as that he normally is, when he should be an adult by now, is really weird. But other than that, it's still Tom King writing. It's Bell and Ortega on the art. The art's it doesn't measure up to Sampere by any means, but it's good.
Still good.
I think the big wide eyes and the big smiles really works because it's a kid that we're kind of focusing on, so that makes sense. Yeah. Like, it was delightful. It was a delightful little time. It's just the one weird aspect to it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I would double check. I was like, did I read 5 years? Because she's 5 years old, so why does Damien look the same? Because John, you could just draw as older John, right? Like, we're not gonna
I mean, let's say John's 18 right now in present day. Right. Him being 23 isn't going to look that much different in comic book art. It's whatever. It's fine.
Right.
But yeah, Damien, like, he's going through puberty. He should be transferred. He should look like Bruce now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, especially considering he has like all gold genes too. His mom's also, like, I don't know. But yeah, it was just a good story. I like these three.
What?
Well, she's a healthy woman too, so I would assume he would,
What do you mean healthy woman, Matt? Say it out loud. What are you trying to say? I feel like you're trying to say that she's foxy MILF and she's a babe, and you're like, Damien should be a stud by now. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Not so many words. I'm just saying that, he should have hit his growth spurt by 18. That's all.
Have you seen the mummy milkers that fed him as a baby? He should be a strong, tough man by now.
I'm glad you're saying everything that I'm thinking, Pete.
All right, fun backup though. Fun backup.
Yeah.
All right, what are you rating Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman number 3. This is a 9. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I gotta go 9.5. I think this is shockingly good. Art's phenomenal. The storytelling is next level. It's making Wonder Woman feel larger than life. It's got themes. It's got allegories. It's got a lot of social commentary that's all clicking together so well, and it's making me really hate the villain. Plus a fun backup. So 9.5. I really can't fault much. So, cool. Nightwing 108, Legacy number 295. Tom Taylor writing with Stephen Byrne on the art. Yeah. So, this is the continuation of the pirate stuff that we've been doing. Dick's with, was it B? And,
B, yeah. Captain Blood, for lack of a better.
Captain Blood, not Blood, Blood.
Oh, yeah.
I say it right. So they very quickly find out who the mole is on the ship because he tries to stab the captain in her sleep, but she's not there. They've set a trap. We get one of those. Obviously, it's not Redondo, but I'll call it a Redondo-esque page, which is the chase going down the page. So you see the multiple dicks and
levels.
Bad guy, multiple dicks. So yeah, you follow it down. It's very, very. Byrne does it. He adapts his style very well to it. Yeah, it's very good. It's doing a good job of being Byrne, but also kind of adhering to the style that the books had. I think they do a thing here where they actually kind of make you endeared to her second in command, this big guy with the beard, because he's got a couple of little jokes here where he punches the bad guy and Dick's like, "Hey, no violence," and he's like, "My fist slipped," and it's it is kind of funny. And he's got a couple of other lines with Dick, which is why at the end of the issue, when he gets killed by the villain, it's like, you know what, Taylor, you did just enough to make me like him that I'm a little sad that you get killed.
He might as well have told us he was retiring at the end of this.
I know,
because
he's retired.
That's what it was.
Just 2 days till retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, one of my favorite moments in this book is that Dick and B start fighting about safety because there could be more moles on board. There's nothing to say it's just one. And she's like, "Hey, why'd you care so much about me? Like, you and Batgirl are all lovey-dovey, and you don't seem to care that much about her safety." And he's like, "I am concerned, but she's a superhero." And she says, "I'm a pirate queen." And Dick yells, "I didn't know that!" And then they just pause, and then she's like, okay, yeah, it's fair point, I suppose.
That's kind of fair, yeah.
Fair point. But yeah, so they go to the secret city that's in a mountain that they have like anti-Atlantean tech to make sure no one comes in. And they've got like fake Manta helmets and Ocean Master helmets.
Which just tells me that they're adding these things to divert the Atlanteans. They're like, oh man, they killed Black Manta. We're not going here. I thought that was a little bit of a reach, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, the joke I did like here is that they get to this city and it's got like, I can't even remember what the store was, but it was like a Starbucks. It was like a franchise restaurant.
It's their Starbucks in DC. It's called Sun Dollar.
Yeah. And he's like, "Wait, you've got that here?" Like, and he's like, "What were you expecting? Like a shanty town with like stalls selling spices and like homemade booze?" And he's like, "Yeah, kinda, but it's not. It's an actual like functioning city."
Yeah, it's a modern metropolis hidden away that's just culture surrounding piracy.
Yeah,
you know?
There's a neat little bit here where like, there's like an assistant lady who shows up, and she bows at Captain Blood, and Blood's like, "What have I told you about bowing? Like, don't do it." And she's like, "But it's tradition." And Dick's like, "Yeah, but you, like, is tradition more important than the actual orders of your captain?" I mean, that feels a bit weird. Actually, at the end, when it turns out that she's also part of the bad team, I was like, that was actually a neat little seed. I almost want to dock at a point, though, for Taylor pointing it out by Dick saying, aha, tradition before the captain, like, that was like a seed for the end. But because Dick actually points it out after it happens, I thought, okay, you're explaining it to me a little bit, so I'll little negative point for that.
It was a nice point there, but I'd rather have him put it together at the end like we did. Yeah, because her just saying tradition over orders, right? That would have been like a little a breadcrumb. So then when it does hit, it hits harder when she turns on B.
Yeah.
So
they're going up to her like base or whatever, and this building, and right before Dick realizes it's a trap, but it doesn't matter. Her evil brother is behind the door and shotgun blasts the henchman dude that was kind of likable, and so he dies. So there's consequences here, and Dick, of course, has to start fighting after a quick bit of back and forth. Also, the brother basically admits, I spread info to all these bad guys, hoping that one of them would kill Dad. Like, so he's responsible for the death of the quartermaster.
Right.
So
yeah, because he's a pirate. He wants to take over the ship himself.
Yeah. He wants to know what the hold is. She won't tell him. and says that he'll torture all of her crew until one of them fess up where they hid it. So Dick goes into action, has some smoke pellets, starts beating the crap out of some pirates. The big cliffhanger, though, is that B's brother stabs her through the stomach with a sword and throws her over the edge of this balcony on this building, and she goes crashing into the water. And that's the end of the issue. Very quick read, very pleasant read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one that was just okay. Feels like a mid-chapter, right, in the story.
I think we've got one issue left in this particular arc, and I've been saying that I've been enjoying it well enough. It's a very easy read, but it's not up to the same excitement that I have typically. And I think that's a mix of things. I think it's like I'm not as into pirates for one. It's also dealing with this character that's more related to Rick Grayson than Dick Grayson. And inherently, that's just a little less interesting to me. Yeah. But it feels like it's wrapping those things up. Not that I'm saying I think B's definitely dead. I feel like this is definitely prime for her surviving.
I feel like the killing so wanton is we're gonna find out that you can't die on the pirate island for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a bit of a stretch. Okay, but you may be right. I don't know.
Yeah, just because it was so the guy that he endeared us to just goes down without a fight. B gets stabbed. I'm wondering if there's going to be some piratesy, Pirates of the Caribbean.
I think if the henchman dude survives because there's magic here that stops you from dying, that would I think that would make that death quite weak. I think it works because he made him like us, and then and then he dies. I think that's to sell us on the threat, and then I think the ending's ambiguous enough where she might survive this. It may not have. He might not have hit an organ. She might swim to safety next issue. Dick might jump in after her. Whatever the next step is. But
because they also made a big deal about Dick hesitating, right, when he was supposed to jump into the water. So I wonder what that's about as well.
Yeah, he doesn't know what that is yet. He's still not sure. But the backup wraps up this little 3-part story we've had, which is this villain that's been following Dick around, who doesn't know he's Nightwing, just sees him hanging out with Babs, who Dick's at the movies with in this issue, or with the other Batgirls, or whatever it's been over the last 2 parts. But Dick goes out to get some more drinks when he's at the movies with Babs. He ends up noticing the villain, and it turns out this is actually a very old villain, because I was not expecting a note that said Detective Comics issue 154 from December 1949. Jesus. You're pulling an old character here. So this is
Conrad.
Yeah, this is Hatch Marlin, who used to do getaway driving for other criminals, but now he's doing kidnapping. And he doesn't know that Dick's Nightwing, so he keeps threatening him with this gun. And Dick's like, "You have no idea who I am. You're not going to solve anything here. You're going down." And sure enough, Dick very easily deals with him. It's not even an issue. Leaves him tied up for the police. It's not a big deal. I will say, the art here is all right, but there is definitely some anime influence, and some Dick looks overly angry in some of the panels when it feels like he should be just kind of
regular.
Yeah, just regular Dick, to be honest. I don't see why he'd be so angry at this guy. But the employee at the movie theater won't let him back inside because the movie started. He even offers to buy a new ticket, but she still won't let him in. So he has to message Babs and says, "I'm outside, they won't let me in." So she comes out, and it's like, okay, the movie was going to suck anyway. Let's just go and hang out with people. And the final page is just Dick and Babs snuggling on the couch, and Cass and Steph are, eating popcorn and stuff. Jason's standing off at the side like a loser. So that's it. It's basically just this is why we're superheroes, to have these quiet moments like this. This is what we're fighting for. This was a fun backup series. The middle chapter with Jason was a bit weaker, but I think both this one and the first one where he's hanging out with the other Batgirls were really enjoyable for what they were. Certainly not I think if you put all 3 of them together and sold it as an issue, it would probably be a fine little one shot. As it is, it was a nice little charming backup, but nothing special either. But I had a decent enough time.
It was good.
Did you read the backup? No.
Oh no, I haven't been reading these ones.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. What are you rating Nightwing?
I'm gonna give this 7.5.
I'll give it a 7. I think it still does some smart things with the way it sets up a couple of the villains, and makes us care about the character who's going to die. But yeah, still, it's definitely a rank down as far as the arcs go compared to the other stuff that Taylor's done in the book. So, Green Lantern War Journal, Issue 3, Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Montos on the art. So, last issue, we had John be confronted on the train by that lantern who's now been taken over by the Revenant Dead.
Right.
And, he's not doing too great. In fact, apparently using his powers makes him more susceptible to being infected by the Radiant Dead. It's kind of the way it works. I
love that Philip Kennedy Johnson set up the rules really quick and concise for this here.
Yeah.
Because up to this point, we didn't really know what the Radiant Dead were, and now it seems like there's zombie-like constructs.
It never occurred to me that all the people who had been infected before were all lanterns of some kind.
Yeah.
I thought that was just happenstance, but it seems to be now that they seem to be zombie constructs, I guess was the way to put it. So John's not doing too well, but luckily all these like constructs of birds come in, and it's the lantern from the other universe that's here to find John to help him. And when he gets infected on the arm, John goes into like a sort of inside his mind, and he's seeing like a war zone, and there's all these like zombie constructs like coming down onto this battlefield, and it's basically all of his inner fears coming. And he wakes up, and he's at Steelworks. With like medical equipment attached to him and whatnot, and he goes up to the roof and he talks to this lantern who explains it's from another world, that he knows a different John Stewart, and this other lantern's like, I heard you'd quit the corps, or quit the Corps I should say, is that true? And he's like surprised. He's like, my John Stewart would never quit the Green Lantern Corps. Like, he's instantly sort of disappointed and kind of speaks to John like he's a lesser version of John Stewart.
It's that moment of like, you can't be the chosen one, it's along those lines.
So this really sets us up, but it also sets up John's determination of like, look, if this thing's serious and it's going to like kill everyone, if it's going to come after my mother, like I have to do something about it. And this lantern takes him into sort of the space in between time or whatever he does with his ring. And the voice that's coming from his ring, John thinks sounds familiar. And it is familiar because inside this space, the voice can materialize into a construct, I guess. And it's this other universe's version of Kyle Rayner, who is wearing a blindfold instead of his crab mask, which I think is a bold choice, but okay.
I mean, I think it makes that look better in my book.
The crab mask is better than a blindfold. Come on, don't be a tit.
So I was getting, he kind of had like this hood vibe to him too. So he's giving me Spectre vibes.
Oh yeah, a little bit of Spectre. I can see that. Yeah.
Which is definitely a cool look. I would not guess this was Kyle unless they had told us. So I guess that's good because it keeps that suspense going. But yeah, the fact that he tells him, kind of we need you to do this. There's a reason that Lantern Shepherd was sent here. You can't succumb to this or else bad things will happen. And, it says, John worries about his mom. He's like, yeah, but if there's no world for your mom, then there's kind of no point to all this. Yeah,
and the Lantern's like, this world's already doomed because he's already infected, so there's no point in even bothering to try to save this one. Yeah. So a big part of this, obviously, is John going to be like pushing through and convincing him, no, we have to do this, we have to save everyone. So John goes and sits by his mum's bedside because she's unconscious. She's been injured in the whole train thing. Yeah. And basically apologizes that he's leaving, and so it's a very sad. It's very well drawn. It's very well paced. Him walking up and sitting by her bedside, and the beeps from the heart rate monitor kind of sprinkled in throughout. It's all very good. I especially at the moment where he says, "Not only will I be gone, like
the sister
won't be here either because that's been a construct he's been making."
Yeah.
So that's really sad and depressing. So it really sets up his motivation. Our final sequence, though, is in the Amazon rainforest. We see a sort of group of military that are going into the forest looking for whatever, and out comes a bird construct from the Revenant Queen, and we see what looks like a bunch of like constructs of various, I don't know, are these like tribes people, and then there's like cheetahs?
So they look like they're indigenous. So if they're in Brazil, those are probably jaguars, not cheetahs.
Sure. Yeah.
But they look like the indigenous people that are fighting.
Can jaguars be spotty? I thought jaguars were.
Oh no, jaguars have spots, but they have like the rounded spots. They're not just the, they're almost like circles more than they're spots.
I must be thinking of pumas that are. Plain. Yeah. Okay.
Well, jaguars can be melanistic, which means that's how you get black. That's also how you get black panthers, right?
Okay.
Those are leopards that they have too much melanin, so they end up going dark instead of having the spots. Same thing can happen with jaguars. This has been Matt's Wildlife Minute.
Luckily, you know a lot about wild cats, but go on.
Yes, but anyways, the indigenous. So it looks like the indigenous people are fighting back against the loggers, but Byrne, who's the Radiant Dead guy that was a Green Lantern, it looks like he's taken their image and is attacking them with it. So because if you look at one of the guys on the motorcycles, he has the tattoo wrapping from his shoulder down to his arm.
Yeah.
And one of the constructs has those too. So
yeah, I wonder, like, maybe they can still turn regular people, but the regular people who get turned aren't as useful because they don't facilitate new constructs. They're just kind of fodder or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Curious.
They just do that because we know that there's a new Radiant Queen because it infected that astronaut.
Yes.
The first. So yeah, it's just it seems to consume.
It's Revenant Queen, Radiant Dead.
That's right. We do this all the time.
Yeah.
But
you're swapping them around.
Yeah, but so it seems like it consumes the constructs, and that's what it's going after. So the more they point out to John, the more he uses his power, the quicker the sickness is going to spread in him. So we'll see how that ends up. I'm sure.
Which means he's going to have to show restraint, but then there'll be moments where he's forced to use his power, and it's like, oh, he's given up a part of his life every time he does that. It's interesting.
Yeah. Very.
Yeah, no, it's a solid issue. I think it's maybe my least favorite of the three, but not because there's anything wrong with it, just because the first two were so strong in their pacing. Yeah. This one, I felt the pacing was a little weaker, but it does leave us in a place where John's making the choice to go and like start this fight. Like now he's involved, now he cares about what's going on. So it feels like we've ended the opening act of the story here with this issue. So super excited into the next one.
There's that, and then Montos' art, like the scene on the train. When Shepard comes with the birds,
specifically when Shepard picks up the train with the birds, because the infected lantern, Varen, thank you, I knew it was a V. He's like blown up part of the track, and the Shepard like picks up the train with these bird constructs and flies it over to the other side. It's a great little like action moment, to be honest. It looks good. So.
Very much. The constructs at the end, and just that design for Kyle and the realm between realms, basically. That Shepard takes John to. All that stuff looks really, really cool. So yeah, Montos is just killing it.
Yeah, he's been very good on this book since it started. What are you giving War Journal issue 3?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's an 8 out of 10. Quite happily. All right. Batman, Superman, World's Finest, issue 21. Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art. So we went into the Kingdom Come universe last issue. Although, of course, it was not in that future. It was during Batman and Superman's prime. And it ended with Thunderman as he's going by in this world. Or Boy Thunder as we knew him. Attacking Superman, and the big thing here is that Clark and Bruce of this universe both become aware of this fight that's happening in the middle of the city, and Boy Thunder starts yelling about how these two are imposters and that they're here to kill him. Look, they're murderers. So we get Superman versus Superman, and we get Batman versus Batman, and because this universe has never encountered the multiverse before, they don't immediately assume, oh, this is us from a different universe. They think, oh no, this is something more malicious. This is definitely villains that are mimicking who we are. Yeah,
imposters of some kind. But I like when Batman's fighting Batman and he's using all of his moves, and our Batman is trying to tell him, like, look, it's because I'm you. And isn't this weird? Like, who else could match you? You know?
They're so evenly matched that there's almost no other explanation.
and then we get to see angry Superman, which is super rare. You know?
Yeah.
Which there was a lot of stuff that wasn't adding up here, and it felt just slightly off. And when we get to the reveal at the end, it makes sense, and that's why I'm glad, because Superman's clearly picking up on that too, which is why he's so angry. You know.
Yeah. Dick even shows up in his red Nightwing outfit in this Earth, and our Bruce even says, "Oh, that's definitely Dick," given the way he's talking. He's deducing these things. The Kents are dead. There's the tombstones at the farm. So yeah, we get angry Superman, as you said. Like, he yells in anger. And so it's all building up, and it's like, okay, there's some, like, David Boy Thunder / Thunderman. He's clearly trying to conceal something. He's lying so heavily to the others. He doesn't want to tell them about what's going on. And of course, this is when Gog comes in, and Batman and Superman from this universe get on their knees. Like, they bow down before Gog.
Yep.
So the big cliffhanger is the entire Justice League of this universe showing up to fight Batman and Superman. So they're on the back foot. Obviously, everyone here's been manipulated. It's a big thing. So yeah. No, I mean, as per usual, the art in here is gorgeous. Dan Mora gets to draw different versions of, like, a lot of the characters here. You've got, obviously, the Nightwing. You've got this version of Batman and Superman, which aren't too different, but they're different enough. I think the big thing, though, is that final 2-page spread where you're seeing, some of them look pretty close to normal, that you'd expect. But then some of them look a bit different. They stick out a touch. I'm just looking through the page here. Like, especially since I've read Kingdom Come, so I don't know if these are just designs that have been taken from Kingdom Come, but
yeah, no. So definitely the whole the bat suit that flies that Bruce is wearing is definitely a take on the Kingdom Come Batman suit, right? Because he's at by that point in the story, he's been broken so many times. He has to have the exoskeleton.
I remember that for sure.
Yeah, and Superman definitely has I don't think he has the black slash S, the red slash. Yeah, but he's definitely got the graying temples. It's definitely an older Superman, but not quite. So they're almost halfway there to Kingdom Come, which is nice. It's just the stuff with David, more or less, him lying and about his origins to this Kingdom Come stuff. That's the hook that got me on here, because, like, how did he end up with Gog, right?
Just this idea that he is befriended and manipulated these versions of these heroes definitely builds a different dynamic, and the idea that he's trying to keep the multiverse a secret. And maybe it's just because he saw that one day his Batman and Superman might show up and it would ruin everything that he's got going. Maybe that is just the sole reason why he's keeping it secret, or maybe not. I'm not sure, but it's all very gorgeous. Mark Waid's so good at writing these characters that it's very easy to read. There's a whole fun action sequence where Superman is trying to trick their Superman by flying through tunnels and making sort of whistling noises and stuff.
Yeah. So he goes through a lead mine, right? So you can't use the X-ray vision to find him, and then him knowing that creates enough noise disturbance to throw off older Superman.
So it's a fun way of using, like, his own weaknesses against him. So that stuff's really enjoyable. It's a good time. I'm curious to see where this goes next with this David stuff. Presumably he'll end up becoming Magog by the end of the story, maybe. Unless he's got, like, a third arc plan to get to that point. But it seems like we may get to it here. Given that we've introduced Gog, it feels like we'll get to that probably before too long. So, very good. All right, what are you giving Batman Superman World's Finest?
I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Yeah, that seems about right, I think. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
There's some big moments, but ultimately, it's fine. Like, there's nothing that stood out outside of Angry Superman to me, right?
Yeah, it's not like an amazing issue you're going to remember for years to come or anything like that. So I think 7.5 seems fair enough. All right, Titans, issue 5, legacy number 129, Tom Taylor writing with Nicola Scott on the art. So this, obviously, the big cliffhanger last time was Tempest infected Linda with the body snatcher parasite thing. And it seemed like, so now they've isolated Wally and Linda on this base on Mars, but she's actually the danger now. She's the one who might kill him. It didn't play out exactly like I thought it would, I'll say that much. Yeah. It went in a different direction. It sort of basically did this thing where Dick had figured out that she was probably going to get infected with whatever it was. He'd kind of put this together. So he took them there kind of intentionally, and I think what I wasn't expecting is that I thought Linda was going to try and infect Wally. Instead, they're looking around this room and they've got all these dangerous artifacts from all the various villains, and one of them is just this bomb. And Linda goes up and tries to set off the bomb by pressing it. And Dick's like, well, we obviously decommissioned it all so that it was safe. We're not idiots. So we get a whole scene here where the parasite flies out of Linda's mouth towards Wally, and Dick's.
I wasn't expecting that. That was pretty cool.
It was a really fun little moment. It definitely, I thought it was going to be like an issue where we're going to be tense the whole time because Linda keeps trying to be alone with Wally, and it's going to be, when is she going to strike? I was not expecting her try to just blow up the place within the first 2 pages of their scenes, but it definitely was an entertaining payoff though. So,
and I do love that Wally being like, how would you put that together? And Dick being like, look, this is the only thing it could have been because of the lives that we lead, right?
It had to be someone close to you. Tempest has been acting out a character, so obviously they've got a better idea there. Meanwhile, Beast Boy and the others are in Borneo, and they're dealing with the grunts, and they say, hey, we need to solve this all this deforestation. It's not going to work. We need some help. And Raven's like, I've got an idea. And much to my surprise, they go to Levi, Swamp Thing, from Ram V Swamp Thing, and enlist his help and say, hey, we need to reforest the place. And he comes with them, and he notes that when Starfire touches his arm, flowers blossom, and they set up that her energy is actually sunlight, basically.
It's ultraviolet.
So they take Swamp Thing back, and between him using his green connection, Starfire's sunlight, and then even is it Raven who creates some wind with a portal to build a whole climate, basically, to repopulate the forest. Lots of fun stuff there. I really like them all working together, and there's 2 key things I want to take away from this. One is that Swamp Thing's asked to join the Titans, even if it's on a part-time basis, because having someone who's connected to the green is going to be helpful, and he's also mega powerful, so it would help.
Well, there's that, and he's got a connection to the planet, so it's like, why wouldn't we want a representative for Earth? The Earth itself, which makes a lot. And just the art here with Nicola Scott, just you get the vibe that Levi's been so lonely, right? That's one thing, that him being asked to join a team just makes his entire year, because the smile on the Swamp Thing's face it really goes.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. I think it's when Dick and Wally and that have joined them where they officially invite him, and he smiles and says, I'd really like that. The other thing here, though, I thought was quite interesting, because we were questioning this, I think, last issue, was Beast Boy turning into lots of little animals instead of one.
Swarms,
Yeah, and I still think there's a problem with this, and because we said, is it just about he can create the same amount that would amount to his mass? But the problem with that is that he turns into bigger animals than him all the time. He'll turn into a rhinoceros or a gorilla, and he'll get bigger in size. So the question then becomes, why can't he become 1,000,000 bees instead of just however many happens to roughly fit the size of his body? But with that complaint aside, the interesting little thing here they put in is that Raven talks about how when Beast Boy turns into all these little creatures, which he does here to try and help the environment
ecosystem,
sometimes one of them will die because something will step on it or something, and when that happens, it's like Beast Boy's losing a small part of himself. And I do think this is setting up the Beast World stuff, where maybe
me too.
The reason why he's going to perhaps be angry or out of character or whatever is because he's losing little bits of himself every time this happens. And we see a big cat like seemingly crush one of the bees or whatever. So it's like, oh, a little bit of Beast Boy just died. He's literally giving himself a little bit of himself up every time he does that to help try and save the world, which is very admirable. But it's like, okay, this is setting up some consequences, and I like that.
Yep.
So
because I do like that they addressed it, right? That Tom Taylor was just like, oh yeah, no, there's a reason that we've never seen him do this till now. And it also shows how desperate Gar is at wanting to save the Earth.
I do have some questions though about the limits of like how many he can make.
Yeah.
But like that's maybe something they'll get to. Maybe they won't. Maybe it's something we'll just sort of leave.
Well, judging from what I've read in the solicits of the Beast World stuff, it almost feels like that's he's been stretched to his limits, and that's what causes this. So. Yeah, we will see. It does seem like there's a plan for all of this. Yeah,
which is good. It feels like it's building to something.
Yeah.
And arguably, this was, out of the two Tom Taylor books, this was the one that was maybe the better build to what we're going to. Which, we get to the ending, and it's Brother Eternity with Tempest, and he's like, Wally's supposed to be dead. Why is he not dead? This is supposed to be over by now. And the big reveal at the end, because he's like, oh, we have to launch, but, we're like our... Oh, what does he call his leader?
What do you mean? The
new ruler.
I don't have it open in front of me.
Yeah, he says, we have to make the planet more hospitable for its new ruler. So they're prepping the planet for whoever's going to be in charge next.
Yeah.
And the final page reveal with Brother Eternity's eyes, and he wipes off some of his makeup. We didn't realize he was wearing makeup, of course.
No.
But he's wiping off some makeup, and it looks like he's Tamaranian. Based on this final page,
because we saw that the meteor had some Tamaranian origin, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, big week for Tamaranians.
It is a big week for Tamaranians. Yeah, two books have some Tamaranian stuff going on. And also here he says it's time for the human race to end. So yeah, we're building up to something apocalyptic, and it says next Titans Beast World. So it seems like like this is going to be the main villain of Beast World, which is cool. If not him, then whoever he's working for, certainly. Yeah. So no, I thought this was really effective. It says Out of the Shadows finale, which doesn't feel like a finale. It feels this feels like the prologue to what the event is, which is fine. But I do wonder though if they'll. I mean, what issue was this? This was issue 5. I do wonder if they'll collect it with the main Beast World story, but probably not, because 5's enough for a trade. Yeah. So they can say it's the prologue to Beast World. They even call it that.
It wouldn't also surprise me if this has the Nightwing stuff in it too. That kind of set up the Titans book. If they're going to do a trade. Oh,
sure, yeah. That was a whole arc, though, wasn't it?
Was it? I thought it was like 2 or 3 issues.
Maybe I'm mixing it up. Maybe it was just 1 or 2 issues that set up this, but because they were in a whole arc with Nightwing, though.
Yeah.
Before that, so I don't know how they'll split it up, but anyway, we're getting ready for Titans Beast World, though. It's nice to actually be interested in an event, if you want to call it that. When in reality, I mean, it's got its own book, and it'll be that and the Titans book, and there's a few tie-in one-shots, so I guess it is an event, but it doesn't feel like it's spanning all of the other books, which is nice. It's its own kind of corner, I suppose. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I thought this was a fun setup. It was a fun reveal. It did take me a second to realize what the reveal was, though. It was clear that it was revealing something to me, but I had to really look at him and think about what it was doing.
Yeah. Well, because I had to go back and double check because he didn't have a pupil now. Yeah. I was like, oh, he's Tamaranian now. Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. It was that sort of thing where I wasn't sure if it was makeup coming off at first. I thought it was like just a light was hitting his face, because sometimes that's how comic art looks.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I was like, oh, no, he's actually wiping off makeup. This is okay.
I was like,
good.
Dang, he's really tanned. And then they're like, oh no, he's Tamaranian.
Yeah, so we'll see how this goes. Which is nice, because we keep thinking about how Beast World's obviously going to be Beast Boy focused, but the reveal that the villain is Tamaranian means that Starfire is probably going to get a fair bit of development in this as well, I would assume.
It definitely feels like it's much more of a Titans thing than just Beast Boy.
For sure, yeah.
And that's good.
Plus, they reaffirmed here that Raven's close to Beast Boy and is concerned about him, so that's going to be something that will play into everything as well, I'm sure. So no, really good. And the idea that we're trying to take out Wally, because Wally's arguably the biggest threat of the team, to anyone because he's his powers are easily more powerful than everyone else. Like even Starfire, who's obviously very powerful, Wally's super speed is hard to overcome for just about anyone. So interesting. Plus, at least Starfire, if they're also Tamaranian, they can fight fire with her, as far as it's concerned. So, very, very good issue. I think the art from Nicola Scott, as per usual, is very, very good. Sometimes some of her smaller panels can be a little lacking in detail. There's some panels where she'll have to do a lot of characters in like a small box, and relative to others, they have to be relatively light on detail. But then you get that full page where, like, when Dick and Wally show up and Starfire's in the sky above them, and it's that full page spread of the sun shining. And I say it's actually Starfire that's shining, but it looks like the sun. And you got the life, all the plant life coming up from the bottom. It just looks very pretty. It's pages like that where Nicola Scott's art really excels, I think. Although my favorite panel in the book is probably the parasite coming out of Linda's mouth towards Wally. I think that is I think she looks very lifelike, Linda, in that panel with the shading on her face, but then just the grossness of the parasite is just perfect.
Being ejected out of her.
Yeah, it's like she's just she's projectile vomited this like furry looking parasite at him. Luckily Wally's got super speed though, so he just whooshes out of the way, and then Dick
also looks great too. Is like the effect of him moving.
That entire page is just fantastic. It's really good stuff. So very good. There you go. That's Titans. Building up to Beast World very nicely. Enjoyed it quite a bit. I also liked the art on Linda looking very upset that she tried to kill her husband in the next page. I thought that was handled quite well too. So what are you giving the Titans?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
I'll just go straight 8. I think it's a really solid book. Really enjoying the build to Beast World. I think it's done good things to set up both. I think the reveal at the end's good. I think the continuing character development with Raven and Beast Boy are doing a good job laying the groundwork for the story we're getting. But it does feel like a prologue. It feels like a prologue to the real story which is about to start, which is fine, but it very much is that. So cool. Justice Society of America, issue 7, Geoff Johns writing with Marco Santucci on the art. So, I don't remember when we got the last issue of this.
I don't either, and I'm missing it because when I went through my comics, I have a gap from 5 to 7 now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I'm sure I'll hunt that one back down.
So this is... I enjoyed this issue quite a bit. I love what Johns is doing with all these characters. I think the gaps between the issues, and because the plots are a lot of different threads right now, is making it a little tough to remember what we were doing last time. But all the stuff in here is really great. The opening, outside of this villain they're setting up, who is branding people with a tattoo of a diamond after he grabs them for a crime.
I think isn't it supposed to be Harlequin's son or some? Not Harley Quinn. We ran into them in Huntresses, right? Was, so just the fact that they're operating right now, I thought was interesting.
I couldn't remember the name, but they seem to be like they're branding criminals, and the idea being that if he ever encounters them breaking the law again, that he'll know the repeat offenders because they've got this tattoo, and he'll do something more permanent.
I mean, that's what Aldo Raines did in Inglourious Bastards, right? They're able to hide it forever. So, it's hard not to be okay with it though when it's Nazis that do it too. So the JSA along with Batman are fighting Grundy. Salem keeps saying, "I know how to deal with Grundy. This is easy peasy." Like I was with the real Dr. Fate for years, you stupid little imposter. And she goes to do a spell to deal with Grundy. And instead of sending him somewhere, she incinerates him and he burns alive until he's just a skeleton. And then when Huntress yells at her, it's like, you just fried my friend. We're trying to recruit him. Like, he's my buddy. And you just killed him. And Salem's like, it's Saturday. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, he'll be born again on Monday. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, no, that was good. It was they were trying to turn him into Cyrus Gold, his human form.
Yes.
And she lights him on fire, which I'm looking at Salem the Witch Girl. I'm like, you kind of suck. Like, you're just not a good person. You know?
Yeah, I thought the panel of Huntress yelling at her with through the mask there looked quite good.
Yep.
So then we go to Icicle Jr. and Belle Reeve, and terrific Power Girl and Jakeem are there trying to recruit him, and he's like, you want me to be on your good team? He's like, yeah, you've never done anything too bad. Like, you have been a bad guy, but you've never done anything as heinous as your father, and you've helped us out in the past, and it references an old issue.
Yep.
So this is basically obviously Huntress wanting to get her team from the future set up, which, you know, maybe won't work the way it's supposed to, right? Despite all of her best efforts. But yes, Icicle Jr. seems very, very like gun-ho about getting out of here. And he's like, yeah, I'm just dying to save the world. And he kind of winks at them, and it looks like, I don't know if we can trust you, to be honest, Cameron.
Well, and then I do like that Power Girl page is just like, yeah, you know, you don't have to worry about any of these heating elements because I have portable ones with me at all times. You know, I did like that.
Yeah, I got a portable heat sinks, or heat lamps, I think was what she said.
Yep.
So heat sinks are the opposite. They're to cool things down.
Yeah.
Forgive me. Then we got to Jean Loring in
This
an
was
asylum.
weird.
Yeah, this was a bit of a sidestep here. I like the scene though. So our young Dr. Midnight goes and is trying to interview her about Eclipso, and of course, if you've read Identity Crisis and all that, you'll know all about Jean Loring, who was the Atom's wife and became susceptible to Eclipso and his control. But you know, like, she doesn't really get very aware. But yeah, so Wildcat seems to be controlled by Eclipso right now, right? That was the implication.
That was the implication that I got from it.
Yeah, because they're talking about Eclipso taking over someone, and typically it doesn't like completely like remove who you are. It's more like all the people you hate and all of the vendettas you've got, all of a sudden you'll become...
It's amplified.
Yeah, you'll just like... Right. It sounds kind of like Angel losing his soul in the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where all the inhibitions go away, and you just do the awful things that you kind of want to, and then you turn the page, and it's this full. It's a really nice page actually of Wildcat Yolanda that is crouched on a rooftop in the rain, and her eyes are lit up. It really does give me the vibe that she's the one going after Amanda Waller, but it's just a tease. I'm a little worried that it's going to be like 2 months until issue 8, and I'm going to forget about this, all these moments that they're setting up.
The thing with the Jean scene that I really liked is where she just goes, "I know you're there," and Dr. Midnight's like looking at her, like, "Yeah, I'm right here." He's like, "No, not you, my husband. You know, I can't see him, but I know he's there." And it's like, oh my goodness, seeding the Ray Palmer stuff again.
Oh yeah.
You know? So.
Big stuff. Dr. Fate takes Salem to the Tower of Fate, and she's surprised that there's like secrets in here she doesn't know about. Again, just maybe pointing out that she's not as great as she thinks she is.
I also love the you could fix these stairways. You would know that if you were Dr. Fate, though. I just like, she's just a little mean girl.
Oh
you
yeah.
Know? Like, you know, I just
yeah. But Dr. Fate's like, you know what? I'm not going to be around in the GSA because I'm just a distraction because you just hate my guts. So, you know, I'm not going to deal with this. But then she zaps him and says she wants the helmet, and basically says "F you."
Well, he tries to take her home to Limbo World, and she's not going to go, and that's where she zaps it and says that she wants the helmet. Yeah,
and she. Yeah. You know, disappears after he blasts her, and he takes off the helmet, and it's just kind of like, you know, he gets like a vision that says "Save Grundy," but the end of the issue is that some characters from the Legion of Superheroes show up, although it does correct it and says the Legion of Substitute Heroes, and so we get, hold on, let me just lean in so I can read these because the text is really small. We got Animal Lad, we've got Rainbow Girl, and we've got Stone Boy. Are you familiar with these three characters, Matt?
So only Rainbow Girl, and that's because she was in the Legion of Three Worlds, or she was in one of the Johns Legion books where they were hinting that she had a tie into the emotional spectrum because her colors were red, green, and blue, and she could tap into those three. And so we saw her get angry and tap into the red, and all of that stuff. So the fact that she's no longer in the Legion and now she's Rainbow Girl, I think that's interesting. The Legion of Substitute Heroes are the B team, the backbench of the Legion, and they were always kind of played for jokes.
I mean, do you like seeing a lion wearing the Superman outfit? Because that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, not bad. I like the thing on there is that he can become every animal, but he's stuck in between human and lion right now.
Yeah,
right?
he's a human body with a lion head.
Yeah, and so like it's like Beast Boy, but if Beast Boy got stuck mid-transformation. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then Stone Boy, he can turn his body into stone, but he's stuck in that position. Right, like a statue, which, again, these are all Legion of Substitute Hero stuff. There's always a fun little twist. I believe that's where Matter Eater Lad came from, who could just eat everything.
Sure, yeah. He sounds like a silly concept, so he probably came from this.
Yep, and he ended up making the A Squad. So, yeah, very, very interesting to pull the Legion into Justice. Like, it makes sense because Justice Societies always seem to be about legacy. I mean, of course,
I enjoyed all the threads that he's playing with in this issue. I enjoyed the Grundy scene. I enjoyed the Jean Loring scene. I'm into what it's doing, but I am a little worried that it's all just like 4 or 5 threads rather than like a focused story in this issue.
Yeah,
and I'm concerned that when we come back for issue 8, it's going to have been 2 or 3 months, and I'm going to struggle to remember any of these things that were set up. So I hope I do, because I am enjoying it, and I do think it feels like typical John's just pulling out of his DC toy box and telling stories of these like lesser, weirder, or C-list characters, and I'm into all that. I just hope I remember any of it come next issue.
Yeah, I will say that the Grundy stuff really hit with me because Grundy's a character that I have a weird, not an infatuation, but like I like seeing Grundy in things, and so when it seems that Salem killed him, it made me sad. It made me not like her. So if that was what the intent was.
I mean, she's a little shit all issue, so I'm not.
Yeah.
It's definitely going for that. I think the art is solid. There's definitely some nice moments in panels when they're fighting Grundy and moments of expression. Typically, a Santucci does a good yelling face. So when Huntress is yelling at Salem or Salem's yelling at Fate later on, like those moments look really good. Heavy on the inks again here as well. But obviously, like Olortegui Santucci. He's the next book. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line.
You're fine.
Santucci, I think, is a solid artist, but I mean, obviously, Yannin was so good in that first arc that it does feel like it's a step down, and that's through no fault other than just we had someone else before.
Yeah.
But so it's a solid enough issue though. What were you giving JSA?
I'm gonna give this. I'll give it 7.5.
Yeah, I was thinking 7. I think it's one of those issues where there's a lot of plot threads going as we're building up to something, so it's less of a full meal of an issue, but I enjoyed pretty much everything in it. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm excited about this Legion B team at the end, but I'm curious to see what it does with it. There's so many things going on in the book, though, that even if it sticks around, it'll be like 1/5 of the next issue, probably. Yeah. So that's Justice Society of America issue 7, and I'll take us on to J. Garrick, The Flash, issue 2, Jeremy Adams writing with Diego Olortegui on the art.
There it is.
So, yeah, I enjoyed issue 1 of this, and issue 2 is more of basically trying to get used to the idea that Judy is here, and Jay kind of trying to maybe not be too protective. We get another glimpse of this flashback with the JSA back in the day, when they're fighting Robear, which is a bear with robot mech parts attached to him.
I love it.
I'm sure you love this, Matt.
It's so golden age, right? But yeah, I also like that as they're fighting, Jay's not there, and so we get to see kind of the dynamics of the Justice Society at the time. Where we're you have Spectre. You have Jay Garrick hanging out with Spectre, and then when they need him for his speed, Alan Scott gives out the call, and here Jay comes. Like, I thought that was all a lot of fun. It made for a fun action sequence.
Yeah, And then the bear, after he fights the bear a bit, there's a great 2-page layout where it's like 4 very long horizontal panels going across the 2 pages, where Jay speeds in and then does the tornado arms behind him, and then the JSA come running in. It just looks really good, nice sequential art. But they see a logo that says the ISA on it, and then the bear seemingly disappears into thin air, and then it cuts to present day. Judy's getting a physical in Detroit to see if she's all right, and it's like the doctor says, yeah, she's completely fine, she's healthy, you know, like she's going to live up a normal life and be whatever. But Jay's very protective, he's worried about her, and when Judy says she wants to go to the mall, or to be more precise, Courtney's going to take me to something called a mall and go shopping. Jay doesn't like the idea, but immediately Joan is like, no, on you go, be back whenever, before dinner. And Jay tries to intervene, and she's like, shut up, sit down, and give her her space. Let her go be a girl and grow. She's tough, she's smart, she'll be fine. And Jay's just sort of like slouched, yes dear. It give me a chuckle. Yeah.
Well, there's that, and then him like, it's probably only been 10 seconds, right?
Yes.
But the fidgeting that he's doing, that John's like, all right, go take a look, but don't interact with her. Don't let her know you're there. You know. Yeah.
Well, so. that's not on the same page though. That's like after we see them briefly. There's like a second page where Joan says, all right, fine, go and check on her at distance, but don't let her see you. So there is at least a break between those two moments, because it cuts to the mall, and Judy's like her dopamine levels are just going through the roof, as she's like, wait, look at all this stuff, like there's one of these in every city. And then Courtney's like, have you ever heard of a food court? It's like, a court of food sounds amazing. So they're doing some fish out of water stuff where she's not really familiar with all the modern trappings of the world. And then you get the page where Jay's looking at the clock ticking, and she's like, okay, fine, go and check on her, but don't let her see you. And Judy's just stuffing her face like a speedster, because as we know, their calorie intake needs to be high. So she's stuffing her face with burgers, with pizza,
just everything, all my favorite foods, just all the garbage.
Dear. But then Robert shows up in the mall in present day and dives at them, and Jay jumps in. Judy's pissed that he's there because she wanted space, but they start fighting Robert. Big action scene in the mall, lots of speed lines. Eventually Jay gives her a baseball bat and says, hey, you were a good swinger if I remember correctly. And one of the things that was getting at in the narration at the start is that Jay has got other memories coming back, like these other JSA memories that were all gone. Like, it wasn't just Judy that was erased, so all this stuff is starting to sprinkle back.
With what's it, Dr. They hint at the villain.
Yes, yeah, he was in the last issue.
Yeah, him, Robert, this mission with the ISA. A lot of stuff's been blanked out because of Judy. Robert
disappears again, and seemingly there's like a green cube of sorts that's floating where he was right after he... that appears, and then it kind of... like... It doesn't... Does it stab him? I'm actually struggling to tell in the second last panel. It's just like...
Let me open this one.
It's all these green bars. I thought it made him disappear again, but now I'm looking at it. Maybe it did kill him. I don't know. But so it's basically like, what's going on here? Some things from his past are showing up again, and seemingly want her. Like, because he came after the Judy, he came after the daughter. So that seems to be the goal here.
So it says snap, and then it says he'll see you and your daughter soon. So I don't know if it killed him or if it transported him.
When I first read it, I read it as teleporting, because that's what it did at the start, but now I'm looking at that second last panel. It kind of looks like the green brick like splits into all these like little beams, and it looks like
and it says schlunk in the word. So oh man, this villain is terrible. He just killed Robert.
Oh, because you knew who Robert was before you started this comic.
I felt like I've known Robert my whole life. I'm just saying.
Yes, a cyborg bear is just obviously right up Matt's alley.
It's up there with Cy Gorilla. Hey, Robert, Gorilla, give me all of the robotic animals.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this issue again. I think it did a good job of making me care about the Jay and Judy relationship. I think Judy's fish out of water stuff and like friendship with Courtney's fun to see, and I like the pulpy villains from the JSA era. I mean, it's a very easy read, much like Jeremy Adams' Flash run. It was a breeze to get through. Feels like you get a full chapter. But it's also not like an issue of Tom King's Wonder Woman where you're getting like in-depth like themes to discuss and all that. It's just a really fun little romp of a comic book.
Yeah, but the things it is hitting on about, being a protective parent and, trying to do right? All that stuff still lands in a, despite all the goofy and kind of silliness. So, but no, I really, really like this. Like, it read real quick too. Like, before I got to the end of the issue, like, I was like, oh man, I'm already done. Like,
I felt the same. Yeah, I got to that final panel saying next time, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, we're done.
Yep.
So on a week with 10 books, I was not mad. A couple of books feeling quick, but yeah. So, what are you rating Jay Garrick, The Flash, issue 2?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5. I really liked it.
Whoa! I was not expecting it to go that high. I think for me it's more a 7.5. I think it's good. It's not quite doing enough like meaty stuff to feel great, but I really enjoyed reading it, and I'm digging to see more of this relationship form between the father and daughter. So, and the pulpy villains are always a plus. So good. All right, cool. Final book of the week then. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, issue 2. Brian Buccellato writing with Christian Duce on the art. And Matt didn't read issue 1 for last month, but upon hearing me talk about it, he immediately said, I have to read this. So
yes,
you've caught up. Despite the fact that it's a 10-book week, you somehow caught up with this one.
Well, I caught up on this before the books came out this week.
Oh,
so...
no doubt. I'm sure you did.
Yes,
but,
yes. So, which that first issue... You weren't kidding. It is a lot of fun. I got Titano, but the moment in that first issue for me was Grodd worshiping King Kong like a god.
Yeah.
Because he sees a giant gorilla and was like, "Yep, this is my new calling." I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, and the big cliffhanger, of course, was Superman flying off to confront Godzilla, who'd just come out the water. I think the thing that stuck out to me about this issue, before we get into what happens in it, is that. It feels like it's more or less present-day DCU, except for the fact that Superman was proposing to Lois, because Damian's Robin, I think Batgirl's in her current Batgirl outfit. Like, it felt like everything feels more or less present-day. It's just the fact that Superman and Lois are just at the proposal stage of the relationship instead of further along. So, which is kind of weird, because it means we have Damian, but John's not even... sniffing reality yet. Although I suppose in a way that's how it started, because Damian existed and John didn't happen till
much later.
Yeah, so just interesting. I guess we're at a point now where a lot of the present day DC stuff can just be put into an out of continuity story, whereas I feel like for a long time, if something was out of continuity, it was probably going to be the more classic stuff that was going to be there to represent the DCU. It'd be the Silver Age versions of things. Whereas now it's kind of a weird mix where there's a lot of modern stuff, because a lot of the writers now that are writing have an affinity for a lot of the modern trappings of DC.
So Brian Buccellato went onto Twitter today to kind of address some of the stuff, because some people are very upset with the way some things in this issue, and we'll get there, played out.
Okay.
But he pointed out this is out of continuity, and there's no canon in dealing with King Kong Godzilla in the Justice League. So he can kind of make stuff up as he goes. So each thing is just the way that he wants to tell the story, because it being out of continuity means kind of...
And for the record, I am okay with the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong story being an out of continuity version.
100%. But there's some people that got very, very worked by what happened in this issue, and I want to tell them... It's King Kong versus Godzilla versus Justice League. It's issue 2. That's another thing he said. He goes, people are getting really, really upset over, this is part 2 out of 7.
I don't even know what they're getting upset about. We'll get to it, I suppose. But I don't remember there being controversial moments in this.
No, because we have half a brain, Pete.
Okay. Well, Superman goes to confront Godzilla, tries talking to him. And Godzilla just kind of like, his mouth lights up, and Superman's like, oh well, I guess I'll take that as not going to cooperate. So Superman punches Godzilla, which is a glorious 2-page layout. Wonderful stuff. But then Godzilla tail whips Superman, and Superman goes flying through multiple buildings. before
Dunk.
yeah, before landing in one and being like, sorry guys, we've got insurance for this. Someone's very upset about his photocopier. And some of the Justice League are on their way to help. Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl are on their way. But as they're on their way, they get reports that this isn't the only monster. There's a big mammoth-style monster at Themyscira. Yep. There's a big spidery one in, where was that? That was Central City. And there's a big bat-like creature, of course, in Gotham. And it's like, okay, we all have to split up then to go and try and deal with these various monsters. So it's like, okay. Obviously, the other three that aren't Godzilla are all just kind of generic, no-name ones. And
we saw them in King of the Monsters, I believe. At least the mammoth one. I remember.
Yeah, I think there may have been a spider one as well, but they're just kind of on the monitor in the background. They're not like focused on.
No, and this bat one feels very much designed for this series, which is fine, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's kind of like Rodan, but it's also using sonics because it's a bat. So.
I do wonder if like we're leaving some of the other big monsters off the table, because if they get a sequel series, it's like, okay, then we can do Ghidorah, we can do Mothra, we can do these other ones. For now, we're just going to stick to like some red shirt villains, basically.
Yeah.
Plus,
well, they're kind of the Mutos, right? And the scroll crawlers.
Yeah.
Along those lines.
The crappy generic ones, yeah. So Batman and his team are in Gotham, and they're on pursuit. So is Black Canary, which turns out to be fortuitous because Sonic's it turns out like amplifying her sonic ability later is what brings this monster down. So Batman and Black Canary, and I think just Cyborg's the only kind of superpowered dude there, take down a kaiju on their own. So Batman don't need no help from Superman and other Justice League members.
No, but it also helps though that he had a sonic person in Gotham at the time.
It does, yeah. I mean, there are some.
You know what I mean? And he's able to use with because he also noticed that Cyborg sonics seem to affect it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, here's the thing. So one of the things that I really liked issue 1 for was the way it sort of used like little bits of like continuity or like character traits to kind of fit in nicely with this new lore, and that was stuff like Grodd reacting to Kong, or Toyman like using this like magic stone to wish all the monsters into the main universe.
Yeah.
Here they do another smart thing where Wonder Woman's flying to Themyscira with Oliver, and they notice Skull Island. They don't know what that is called that, but they notice Skull Island's in the water. It's like, hey, that island's not meant to be there. And Green Arrow's like, hey, land me and I'll investigate the island while you go and deal with the monster in Themyscira. And she's like, are you sure you're going to be here, all right here on your own? Because I don't know when I can come back and get you. And he's like, it's not my first time on a like deserted island. I'll be fine.
Surviving solo on an island. I love that line.
I was okay. So they're doing Oliver Queen on an island, but it's Skull Island. I'm like, that's a great way to like, use the character in a way that sort of harkens back to who he is, but in a new context. Whereas Toyman's now missing. Cheetah and Manta are looking for the rest of the Legion of Doom, but like when they came back to the real world, they all get separated elsewhere. And Lex wakes up in his building, and Mercy's like, Lex, wake up, you bald bastard. And he looks over, and Godzilla is like fighting Superman in the distance, and he's like, shit, what's happening? I need to be briefed. So it just sets up where everyone is, and we go back to Superman and Hawkgirl fighting Godzilla.
I do love that she tries to use the mace on Godzilla, right? Because it's nth metal.
And Godzilla's like,
what?
That tickled, I guess.
Yep.
No biggie. Jimmy like runs Lois off the roof to try and get to safety. We get a lot of the Bat Monster fight at this point in the issue, which actually my favorite thing in this issue. Oh, this was so juicy. This was tantalizing. It was so good. All right. So Jason Todd is on a rooftop, and he's got a sniper rifle, and he's like, Batman, I've got a clear shot. I'm going to shoot it in the eye because that'll probably be its weak spot. I'm pretty confident. And Batman's like, no, we don't know what its weakness is yet. You might just draw its attention towards the city. Right now, me and Batwoman are in the Batplanes, and we are like keeping its attention in the sky, so it's not harming civilians. Making it attack down below where all the people are is a stupid idea. Let's not do that, Jason. And he's like, no, I think this is going to work. I'm going to do it. And then Dick and Babs are both like, no, Jason, don't be an idiot. It's not worth the risk. And he's like, no. It's only a risk if I miss. I'm going to hit my target. So the idiot takes the shot. He does shoot it in the eye. But would you believe it? It fires its sonic beam at the building Jason's on, killing the entire building. And Dick yells out, save as many as you can, implying that there are casualties. And then Dinah arrives, and then basically afterwards, Dick's like, we told you not to do that, Jason. A building's now crumbled because of you. And he's like, oh, now you're starting to sound like Bruce, Dick. And then you turn the page, and Barbara knocks Jason out with a punch.
It is Gardner-esque the way he goes down.
Oh, yeah. And then then Cyborg arrives and Dick says, Jason's finished. And Bab says, needed to be done. To which Dinah says, yup. This book's got Godzilla, it's got King Kong, and it's got Jason Todd looking like a bitch, getting what he deserves. This book's got everything, Matt. Everything.
You could tell that Booch isn't a fan of him. You know?
Anything that makes Jason look a little punk, where the rest of the Bat family all are united in making him look like a punk, the best.
It also helps when he's being too headstrong and not listening, right? So he hits his comeuppance.
This was the best Jason scene ever. I loved it. Like everything from him bickering with Dick, doing the stupid thing that's going to get people hurt, and then Babs knocking him out for it. Loved it. Perfection. 10 out of 10. Would read again. So anyway, they attach a big amplifier to like one of the Bat planes, and Canary like screams into it, and it knocks out the big Bat kaiju. Of course, they give Batman the walking away like a cool dude as the Bat monster crash lands behind him, even though he's not the one that really did the taking down, but whatever. No. He gets his moment.
He'll take credit for it, though.
So, back to Metropolis, Superman and Hawkgirl are fighting Godzilla, and like they point out that he's much quicker than he looks, even though he's really big, and it basically slaps, it backhands Hawkgirl, and she goes flying. Luckily, though, Shazam shows up and catches her. And we get a couple of really fun bits here where Godzilla's atomic breath ramps up. Superman fires up his heat vision. So we get that classic two beams of light, firing and meeting in the middle.
Which I have a problem with that just based off of the size of the heat vision to the atomic breath. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. Does it make a cool visual? Absolutely. Does it make much sense? No. So,
I mean, I'm willing to go with that. The big thing here is that Shazam goes onto Godzilla's head and says Shazam, so lightning strikes its head. Although Superman says, no, don't do that, that's a bad idea. And sure enough, now we've got Kid Billy falling off of Godzilla's head, who, by the way, is yelling, this is awesome, as Superman catches him. But, of course, Godzilla just fires up his atomic breath again, and Superman's like, turn back now. But unfortunately, Billy only gets half the word out, and the atomic breath hits Superman, and he has to protect Billy because he's holding him. So he's like, wrapping his arms around him with a cape, and he's protecting him from the blast. But the final scene of this issue is Superman on the ground, burned to a crisp from a nuclear energy because Godzilla's blast just hit him.
Right.
And Billy's
full force.
Yeah.
Because he had to protect Billy.
So Billy's just like, Superman, you gotta wake up, I do love that we're not going to make Godzilla look weak by saying that he's ineffective against Superman. I think the full force of the atomic breath should put him down. Not kill him, obviously, but it should...
No, but it's gonna knock him out for a minute, and this is what I read people having problems with. A lot of Superman fans thinking, like, Superman can just fly through an atomic storm and it's not gonna affect him. And it's like, well no, it's Godzilla's atomic breath. It should.
Yeah, it's concentrated. It's a weaponized blast of atomic energy.
And so they were very upset that Superman went down like a quote punk, like he's Jason Todd.
No.
When in reality, it's like, well, no, this is what should happen. And B, it's not like Superman just flew into it to punch Godzilla in the back of the throat to make him stop. He was saving Billy. Yeah. He was doing something very Superman.
Yeah, so my key points in this, one, is that if this had no effect on Superman or very little effect, it would make Godzilla less of a threat to all the Justice League, so it would nullify like some of the story. And two, this is the consequence for Billy not listening to him. Billy said Shazam when he was on his head, and this led to him needing to be saved, which led to this. So this was consequences for Billy's actions. Yes. But unlike Jason, where you're like, no, you're being an idiot. One, Billy's a kid, so he's allowed to be a bit of an idiot. Right. And two, it does feel like he's learned a very quick lesson here, because he's like, he looks very concerned when Superman won't wake up here at the end. So lessons have been learned. This is just storytelling. I think it's stupid to be annoyed by this. This makes sense to me. Me too.
And that's why I said, because we have half a brain. So there's just some people out there, as much as I love Superman, right? There's very much people out there that because Batman's Superman, and they'll do because Superman. And that doesn't help any of the story as much as because Batman doesn't.
Yeah, and just because Batman's team takes down a monster, I think it's pretty clear here that Godzilla should be better than all those other no-name monsters. Like, you know. Well,
and it took a full effect of them. And again, this is issue 2. You want Superman punching out Godzilla in issue 2?
Yeah.
Or do you want a series to draw out the tension and suspense?
Yeah, Godzilla should not be going down in issue 2. Like, Godzilla has to be sold as the big threat here.
Right.
And yeah, by the end, like, Godzilla and Kong might even be teaming up with the Justice League to take on whatever the real threat is. Probably something that Toyman concocts with his brain.
Wishes, yeah.
You know?
Wishes, which
oh, God.
It also cracked me up. It was the Wish Stone.
Wait a minute. Is he going to build Mecha Godzilla?
Mechagodzilla, or what if we get a Kong Godzilla composite, like we get a Superman Batman composite that Toyman makes?
I don't know what that would look like. That'd be weird, but
yeah.
I'm just thinking now, if he's going to make something, and because he builds toys, I'm thinking, oh, that's not a far cry from building a mech. Okay, I got ideas. I had a lot of fun with this again. I thought the Superman versus Godzilla fights looked great on the page. Christian Duce is doing some of his best work here, I think.
My main problem with this is not enough Kong in this one. We haven't got much Kong in 1 or 2. So it's coming.
Yeah, you see him briefly. I imagine you'll get that in the Oliver stuff next issue. Yeah.
And I'm sure he's going to be treated like a big, huge deal, which is fine. Like, again, this is issue 2. I'm not really holding it against it. Just as a Kong fan, I'm like, where's Monkey? Where's the big monkey?
I mean, you didn't even get Godzilla in the first issue really until the end. You know, I mean, I know they showed you a little bit of it at the start, just so you whet your appetite a bit. But
again, it's not a real critique. It's just my dumb brain wanting to see big monster.
They set up in this issue that there's a monster in Central City in Themyscira, and we don't see either of those fights. I'm assuming we're going to see those next issue. We're going to see how the Flash deals with one of these things. We're going to see how Wonder Woman deals with one of these things. So,
do we think that Kong's going to have his axe, or do we think that's not?
I mean, I don't know if this is meant to be in continuity with the movies. I think this might just be more of a general version of it, but it wouldn't surprise me if Kong is in some way like brought in to try and help fight Godzilla, maybe, but somehow they're all going to be on the same side by the end.
Oh,
like,
that's
yeah, like I at the very least, I expect Superman and some of the others to respect Godzilla by the end, whatever form that takes.
Yeah, I mean, he is a force of nature, and I feel like you have to have a healthy respect for forces of nature. Yeah, right. They're still going to cause destruction, but you know.
I wonder as well if, on some level, the monsters are being like part of the Toyman with the wishing stone is that he's controlling them to some extent to make them target the Justice League, or at least target the places specifically. I wonder if like when they free the monsters of that control, if like Big G's kind of pissed about it, like so something was puppeteering me.
Yeah, no one controls me. Yeah. I'm the god of this realm. So
very curious to see how this plays. But I had a lot of fun. I think it's using the characters well. I think putting Oliver on an island, on Skull Island, is a fun play on that character.
I'm so excited for that.
So I think it's doing fun stuff with mashing these things up. You know, we've had a lot of these, alternate versions of the Justice League doing stuff or crossovers, whether it's vampires, zombies, whatever. I think mixing Skull Island with DC lore is an interesting direction to take it in. So that's cool.
For sure. And again, I feel like I want to see the John C. Reilly character in this, but we're probably not going to.
I do not care.
But But again, yeah, I'm the Kong Skull Island nerd here. So.
I assume you're going to watch Monarch, right? At some point.
Yeah. I just with all the busyness that I've had, I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it. So
they're not super, like 40 minutes or so each.
Yeah.
I will say there's a young version of the John Goodman character in it, and there's actually a direct reference in episode 3 to stuff that was sort of teased in the first Godzilla in 2014.
Hey.
And the backstory with Monarch and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I like all 4 of those movies. So more of this stuff.
I suspect you'll enjoy Monarch.
Well, and it's got a Russell in it.
Yes.
So I'm more inclined to like it.
Well, it's got 2 Russells in it.
Yeah, well, I know, but I've heard Kurt wasn't in the first couple episodes that much.
He shows up by the end of the second, but he's all over 3. He's like a main character once he shows up. So
sweet, yeah. Which I don't know if I've told you about my joke with my wife of I'll ask if she wants to watch, a movie that has Kurt Russell in it, and she won't realize he's in it, so she'll say no. So that my go-to is, why do you hate Kurt Russell? I did that with Monarch, and she got very mad at me because she didn't realize Kurt Russell was in it. So, yeah. She doesn't want to watch it at the time, so... But yeah, no, I'm catching up on Chucky right now. That's what I was watching before. So I didn't want to start Monarch before we started recording.
Sure.
But so I did get an episode of Chucky watched in between. So, which I'm really enjoying that one too.
Yeah,
but,
I've only watched season 1 of Chucky. I enjoyed it though. It was a fun time.
So, but it is on the to watch list. I might, in fact, when I'm working overtime tomorrow, that might be what I catch up on. So, cool beans. But no, this is a really fun book. I'm glad I did get caught up. So
yeah, it was nice. Kind of like. Synergy, because I watched the new Monarch episode yesterday and then today read the comic, and it was like, oh yeah, I got a glimpse of Godzilla in the episode, and then here I got some action with the Justice League. It was just a fun twofer. So I guess it's just really nice that they've lined up. Obviously the show will be over long before the comic's done, because the comics are monthly and the show's weekly, but it's just a nice little bit of synergy for a couple of months. But yeah, and then the new movie's out in March, I believe, Godzilla Cross Kong, so we'll see how that is. Plus we got a new Japanese Godzilla soon, and I'm looking forward to that as well. So
I've heard good things about that trailer.
Yeah, Godzilla -1 looks interesting.
Yes.
Although movies are starting to sound like mathematical problems, which is not ideal.
Well, but that's also because Godzilla's been around for like, what, 60 years?
Yeah, 1954.
So even more.
Yeah.
70 years.
It's just funny because we got Godzilla -1 and we've effectively got Godzilla multiplied by Kong as the other one.
Right, yeah. Well, I would call that Godzilla X Kong, but that's me. I'm dumb.
I don't know what the term. I think cross is the term that the fighting games use whenever it's something X something it's you say cross, but I don't, because the whole point is it means crossover. But I mean, I don't know. Anyway, what you rating Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong?
I'm gonna give this a solid 8.
I'm kind of inclined to say it as well. I had a lot of fun with this. Mm-hmm. I think this is punching above any weight that it probably deserves to be punching above, but I'm having a good time. Mm-hmm. It probably helps that I like Godzilla a lot, but I'm having a good time. All right, there you go. That'll take us out to the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. And it's a bit of a fight this week because there's 10 of them. And there was no outright stinkers. Last week we had at least one really bad book to talk about. Yeah. This week, I think nothing was lower than a 7. So yeah, curious to see where we go with this. Panel/moment, Matt. What are you going with?
Oh man, there is King Kong. There's Godzilla and Superman. That's a really good one from that. But just for sake of brevity, it's going to be from Wonder Woman. But which one do I pick from? I am going to go with her getting off of the elevator. That really tickled me. Her being bored and throwing the tiara, deflecting the bullets like it was nothing. That was all just a grade A moment.
Oh, it's so tough. I'm sure it probably is something from Wonder Woman for me as well. Probably the jet.
That's pretty good.
Because that's fantastic. Yeah, I'll go with that. I don't want to draw this out too much. The hunger's rising in me, so
Yeah.
I'm keeping this short, especially since I've not looked at covers yet, which leads us on to cover of the week, as I have 10 tabs open to look at all these covers.
Yeah, I was doing that as we were talking about Godzilla Kong. So I'll shout out. There's a Green Lantern War Journal by Mirko Kolak. It's a cardstock variant that's got like Warrior John on there, almost in silhouette. On this reddish.
Oh, there's also
super cool.
Is it B Raza variant, which is a very colorful. It's like there's like a space vortex behind them. It looks very kind of painted.
Looks good.
That looks quite nice. I just caught there's a Nightwing cover by Mike Diodato Jr. where Nightwing's standing in the rain. That's quite pretty.
There's both of the variants for Jay Garrick are good. One's with Francis. It's got Jake running through, and then one by Shaner. Where it looks like he's running up a skyscraper. It looks super, super cool. But I have mine, which is going to make me...
I think I know what mine. I'm just looking for any other art. But the main cover for JSA is really good. Yanin with Grundy behind the JSA. I think that looks really cool.
Yep.
Really atmospheric.
The regular Wonder Woman cover looks pretty great too.
Yeah, actually, I think that's my pick. Actually, is the regular Wonder Woman cover.
Oh, mine is as well from Wonder Woman, but it's the Bilquis Evely variant that's got Trinity with her 3 lassos.
Oh, okay.
It looks fantastic. So
it's got a few good covers, but I think those main covers for Wonder Woman where it's like really emphasizing the white negative space, although there's less of it in this one, but the art from Sampere on these covers has been so good. I just can't help but pick it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So Wonder Woman's gotten both cover and moment of the week for me. Just moment. No, both for you as well.
Yeah.
So Wonder Woman's sweeping so far, so that's a good sign. All right, art of the week, Matt.
So shouts to Montos for War Journal. That really good. Had a lot of good moments. Batman Offworld as well, because Mahnke always delivers.
Yeah, I was going to say he deserves a shout out for sure.
Yep. But I mean, Sampere. We did half of the review about the art from Sampere.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Wonder Woman for both writing and art. So, like, obviously, Nicola Scott's good on Titans. Dan Mora's great on Superman, Batman. Duce was doing good stuff with Godzilla, but it's Sampere. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that that's my pick for this week. Honestly, the only one that had kind of art that I'm even going to be negative about would probably be Superman because of the different artists.
Because of all the smash up,
Yeah. So that's that. So top 5 books, Matt.
All right, number 1 is going to be Wonder Woman. 2 is Green Lantern War Journal. 3 is Titans. 4 is Justice League Godzilla vs. Kong. And 5 is going to be... 5 will be Jay Garrick.
Yeah, that's actually a tough top 5 because number 1's easy. Number 1's Wonder Woman, right? There's not a doubt in my mind. I rated that 9.5. But everything else, I had mostly 8s and 7.5s. You know, it was a lot of good stuff. It was a good week, but it wasn't like, you know, some weeks you'll have like, you know, a few 9s and a couple of 8.5s, and it's really easy to just rank them from that. So I think for me, number 1's Wonder Woman. Number 2, yeah, I'll agree. War Journal. Well, I'll go Titans. And then Justice League Godzilla Kong, and then War Journal, and then I'll wrap up number 5 with... Oh, it's tough.
Yeah.
I'll
give solid week.
I'll give my 5th spot to... I'll give it to JSA. But it's... There's like 4 books that are all kind of roughly the same. I think JSA, Superman, Nightwing, and Jay Garrick are all kind of... They're all in that same kind of space.
They're jumbled
together. So picking my last one there was quite tough, but yeah, that'll do. I'll tell you then what's coming out next week from DC Comics. Oh, we just broke 3 hours, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
No.
A lot of books, and some of them had some meaty conversation.
Yep.
Next week, though, from DC Comics, we have coming out Detective Comics 1078, Action Comics 1059, Green Arrow issue 6, The Flash issue 3, Harley Quinn 34, Batman the Brave and the Bold issue 7, Penguin issue 4, Power Girl issue 3, Titans Beast World issue 1. We have Alan Scott Green Lantern issue 2. Batman Neo Gothic issue 5. City Boy issue 6. We got Cyborg 5. Steelwork 6. Amazon's Attack issue 2. Batman 89 Echoes issue 1, so the sequel to Batman 89. And there's also Wonder Woman Outlaw Edition issue 1, which is just a reprint, I believe, of issue 1. So still a pretty packed week. It's not as big as this week, but it's still reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm real excited for the action detective 1-2 punch. Not so much for Green Arrow, because I'm reading that solo now, so...
yeah, I've got 8 books still. Like, still a healthy week there.
See,
so
1,
not bad at all. And I've dropped Green Arrow, so that's 8, not including that. And I believe Brave and the Bold's not got the Tom King story until...
No, it doesn't. I just checked.
Yeah, I think it's issue 9 that has that.
And we'll see if I'm caught up on Flash yet. I still haven't caught up with issue 2. So
yeah, I'm planning on reading Flash still, even though issue 2 was definitely not as good and it was a bit messy. But you know, I'm looking forward to Amazon's Attack. I'm obviously looking forward to Beast World kicking off, and then obviously Penguin's has been good. You know, so yeah, should be a pretty reasonable week, which means I'll probably leave my Patreon books until the following week. I'll just double check, but I think the following week's going to be quite quiet.
It's a week 1, 2,
3. There's a couple of Beast World one shots, but even with those, it's still a quieter week. So yeah, I'll leave my Patreon books for week 1 of December's books. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us, everyone, because that is the end of Comics from the Multiverse, episode 383. At least I think that's the number I said at the start. But if I didn't,
I believe it was.
If I didn't, then who cares? We're at the end of the show, and the hunger pains are starting to kick in. So thank you very much for joining us. You can support the show over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. It helps out a lot. But thank you for listening or watching. Hit the like button on YouTube, rate the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Tell your DC Comics loving friends about us. Whatever it is, all of it does help and helps find more people for us to enjoy the show and help keep it going. So please do any and all of those things, or not. I mean, I'm not here to force anything. What would Superman do? That's what you should ask. Superman would help. Anyway,
Superman would help.
Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.